Chapter 4085. Countless years ago, the people from the upper realms had already prepared a backup plan. They left a Chaos Heaven Destroyer beast in the dark to keep an eye on the Heaven Stealer who was trapped in the Forbidden Zone. Once the Heaven Stealer made a move and showed signs of breaking free, the Chaos Heaven Destroyer beast would immediately act to kill it. Given the Chaos Heaven Destroyer beast's cultivation base and combat prowess, killing the Heaven Stealer was as easy as flipping its palm. For experts from the upper realms, even if they wanted to destroy a mid-tier world, it wouldn't be a difficult thing. This Chaos Heaven Destroyer beast was extremely powerful, but sadly, its luck wasn't good. It encountered Gu Fei. Hence, the head of this Chaos Heaven Destroyer beast, which was even larger than a mountain, was stomped down by Gu Fei. One of the Chaos Heaven Destroyer beast's head had already stretched out from the seal, but now, it was stomped down by Gu Fei. Roar. The Chaos Heaven Destroyer beast howled madly, causing the entire sealed space to tremble violently. This sealed space could only temporarily block this Chaos Heaven Destroyer beast. Because the existence that left this backup plan didn't really want to seal this Chaos Heaven Destroyer beast. Boom. Very quickly, in just a span of 5 breaths, the seal that sealed the Chaos Heaven Destroyer beast directly exploded as a terrifying destructive aura permeated the entire space. A gigantic claw directly shattered the void, grabbing onto Gu Fei. Roar. The roar of the Chaos Heaven Destroyer beast shook the 9 heavens, causing all the living beings in the immortal martial realm to be filled with terror. At this moment, Mo Xian, Zhu Ziru, and the rest had already sensed that the situation was far from good. They immediately retreated as far away as they could. One must know that such an apocalyptic battle wasn't something the living beings of the immortal martial realm could withstand. Even for those who had immortal emperor weapons protecting them, they wouldn't be able to block a single strike from the primordial annihilation heavenly beasts. Let alone Mo Xian and Zhu Ziru. Puny humans dare to be impudent in front of this lord. Simply reckless. An incomparably arrogant divine sense radiated from the Chaos Heaven Destroyer beast. Given the Chaos Heaven Destroyer beast's cultivation base and combat prowess, it could kill billions of living beings with a wave of its hand. In the eyes of this Chaos Heaven Destroyer beast, even humans were classified into different levels. This gigantic beast didn't even place the humans of the immortal martial realm in its eyes. The strong reigned supreme. This was a principle that held true in any world. This ferocious beast would submit to an existence that was stronger than it. Little guy, go to hell. The chaotic destructive heavenly beast that grabbed onto Gu Fei exerted force, wanting to directly obliterate Gu Fei's body and Yuan spirit. Streams of chaotic divine light that could be seen with the naked eye surged out from the claw that grabbed onto Gu Fei. Crackle, crackle, crackle. Every streak of chaotic lightning directly tore through the void. The destructive aura that spread out from the huge claw of the chaotic destructive heavenly beast caused countless living beings in the distance to be terrified to the extreme. Even existences at the level of the Dark Hell Demon Lord felt as if their souls were about to be destroyed. Even if he used an immortal Emperor-grade Dao artifact to protect himself, it would be useless. The Dark Hell Demon Lord, the Dragon Lord, and the others worked together to protect Zhu Ziru and Mo Xian as they retreated. Sword Immortal Qingfeng, the sect master of the Myriad World sect, and the others had long since disappeared. Just when the beast thought that it could destroy Gu Fei's body and soul, it was suddenly shocked. Then, an unbelievable scene happened. A ball of divine light slowly spread open the huge claw of the chaotic destructive heavenly beast. A figure gradually appeared in the eyes of the chaotic destructive heavenly beast that was even brighter than a divine sun. Gu Fei stood with his hands behind his back. The divine light on his body directly spread open the claw of the chaotic destructive heavenly beast. Then, he walked out step by step. How is this possible? The chaotic destructive heavenly beast was dumbfounded. It looked at Gu Fei as if he was a monster. A trace of panic flashed across the eyes of the chaotic destructive heavenly beast. However, it was immediately enraged. The huge claw exerted force with all its might. Boundless chaotic lightning rushed out from its sharp claws. They turned into chaotic divine chains and entangled towards Gu Fei. This was no ordinary sacred art. It had already involved the Tao law. It was the power of the law. This was the difference between a high-class world and a middle-class world. The immortals of the middle-class world had yet to come into contact with the Tao law. Their immortal martial Tao was just a small Tao. However, the lightning laws of the chaotic destructive heavenly beast could not even get close to Ji Yu Fei. They were all blocked by the divine light on Ji Yu Fei's body. This was simply invulnerable. This scene shocked the chaotic destructive heavenly beast to the extreme. Who are you? There is no such person like you in the upper world. The chaotic destructive heavenly beast's voice rang in Ji Yu Fei's mind. Its tone was extremely shocked. With the cultivation that Ji Yu Fei displayed, even in the upper world, he was definitely not a nobody. However, in its impression, there was no such person in the upper world. Could this fella be a genius that rose in the recent hundreds of thousands of years? When the chaotic destructive heavenly beast thought of this, it couldn't help but be shocked. Something big might have really happened in the upper world. This was not a good thing for it. Which God King's God's son are you? The chaotic destructive heavenly beast said in shock. Noisy. Ji Yu Fei's body trembled. The Tao law divine chains that were formed by the power of the chaotic thunderbolts around him shattered directly. They turned into a rain of light and dissipated in the void. Then, Ji Yu Fei performed a fist technique. With just a starting gesture, he directly sent the insufferably arrogant chaotic beast flying. Can't even withstand a single blow. Ji Yu Fei said indifferently. The chaotic destructive heavenly beast was not just shocked. This fella was really too strong. That move just now had actually made it tremble in fear. It felt as though it would be killed in the next moment. It didn't know that Ji Yu Fei had just made a simple gesture. He hadn't really made a move. Even so, Ji Yu Fei's aura had already appeared. With just the power of his fist, he had directly sent the chaotic destructive heavenly beast flying. After Ji Yu Fei devoured the power of the Heaven Stealer, his cultivation had directly risen to a whole new realm. The eternal power nourished his muscles, bones, flesh, and blood. This allowed him to possess unimaginable strength with every single move he made. Ji Yu Fei's fist technique also constantly transformed and became stronger as his cultivation realm increased. The 5 elements fist that he created transformed and sublimated into the yin-yang fist. Then, the yin-yang fist transformed and sublimated into the chaotic reincarnation fist. Now, he began to comprehend the eternal great Tao. He wanted to evolve an eternal invincible fist technique. With one punch, heaven and earth would be destroyed and all enemies would be killed. Ji Yu Fei wanted to sublimate the fist intent that he had been comprehending all this time. He wanted to transform it again and form an invincible fist technique. This was just the beginning. Swoosh. The chaotic destructive heavenly beast saw that the situation was not good. It directly soared into the sky and activated its escape mode. Aren't you very powerful? Why are you running now? Ji Yu Fei chuckled and then punched the chaotic destructive heavenly beast in the sky. There was no energy fluctuation, but the chaotic destructive heavenly beast suddenly exploded into a cloud of blood mist. Chapter 4086. Ji Yu Fei killed a heavenly beast with a single punch. This incomparably shocking scene was deeply imprinted in the minds of the hegemons of the immortal martial realm. From now on, Ji Yu Fei was truly unrivaled in the immortal martial realm. This caused the Netherworld Devil Lord and the others to no longer have any thoughts of rebellion or betrayal. Zhu Ziru and Mo Xian were both shocked and overjoyed. Ji Yu Fei was unrivaled in the immortal martial realm. Their statuses in the immortal martial realm also rose along with it. Nobody dared to look down on them. The forbidden ground in the central region of the immortal martial realm vanished. At the same time, the source energy of heaven and earth of the immortal martial realm vanished as well. This news spread out, shaking the entire immortal martial realm. Ji Yu Fei alone defeated the 10 hegemons of the immortal martial realm. This itself was already a miracle. Right now, the 10 hegemons had become 6 hegemons. After Ji Yu Fei killed the primordial destructive heavenly beast, he directly sat cross-legged in the air and began to absorb the essence of heaven and earth. The surrounding energy frenziedly gathered towards him. His entire body, all the pores on his body were breathing. On his chest, waves after waves of eternal light radiated outwards, nourishing his blood, flesh, tendons, and bones. Under the tempering of the eternal energy, he grew stronger and stronger. The spiritual energy in his body churned as the sounds of wind and thunder could be heard. Profound and unfathomable Tao inscriptions manifested on his body. He is plundering the spiritual energy of heaven and earth of the entire immortal martial realm. From afar, Mo Xian'er stared at Ji Yufei with her mouth wide open in shock. At this moment, all the Xiantian cultivators in the immortal martial realm could sense the changes in heaven and earth. What's going on? What's happening? All the cultivators were indescribably shocked. The loss of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth caused them to be filled with fear. One must know that to any cultivator, this wasn't a good thing. Does Master really want to destroy the immortal martial realm? The Netherworld Devil Lord, Dragon Sovereign and the other hegemons were all shocked to the extreme. This was a piece of heaven and earth, having its source energy stolen was already a fatal blow. And now, Ji Yufei was frenziedly devouring the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Not long from now, the entire immortal martial realm would become a barren land. Actually, the Nether Devil Lord and the others didn't know that in the primogenitor realm, some great demons relied on devouring small worlds to increase their cultivation. Although this method was despised by the righteous Tao, but to the demonic Tao, it was a shortcut to increase their cultivation and battle power. However, Ji Yufei couldn't do such a destructive thing. Soon after, he stopped and performed a great technique to reconstruct the earth veins of the heavens and earth, creating a new source of the heavens and earth. Of course, the reconstructed source energy of heaven and earth could not be mentioned in the same breath as the original source energy of heaven and earth. It was only an embryonic form that had just sprouted. Only after a long period of transformation could it become the true source energy of heaven and earth. In that case, the immortal martial realm wouldn't be destroyed. Seeing how Ji Yufei was like the sovereign of creation, summoning boundless amounts of heaven and earth energy with a wave of his hand, transforming them into gigantic dragons, forming numerous mountain ranges, and finally splitting the heavens and earth apart, reconstructing the source energy of heaven and earth, everyone was indescribably shocked. Ji Yufei wasn't a devil. In the immortal martial realm, there were millions and millions of lives and the human race was one of them. Not only that, this immortal martial realm was a world where the human race reigned supreme. For such a world, Ji Yufei naturally wouldn't allow it to be destroyed. Seems like I have to leave. After Ji Yufei rebuilt the source energy of heaven and earth, he directly soared up into the skies, entering the starry space as he stared down at the heavens and earth. In his eyes, there were no longer any secrets in this world. In this place, it was already impossible for him to raise his cultivation. He could only shatter the void and enter the legendary heavenly god realm. With regards to the heavenly god realm, he was filled with anticipation. One must know that the heavenly god realm was a high-grade world, it wasn't something a mid-grade world like the immortal god realm could compare to. High-grade worlds could give birth to saints. The strength of a saint could destroy a mid-grade world with a wave of their hand. They were absolute experts in high-grade worlds. Only by entering a high-grade world would Ji Yufei's cultivation be able to raise again. After that, he could directly activate the myriad world wheel and return to the primogenitor realm. He also had no idea what the current primogenitor realm was like. His departure was very sudden, he was forced into samsara by the first devil ancestor. After he left, the subordinates he left behind in the primogenitor realm might not be able to suppress those fellows. Ji Yufei was very clear that the territory he conquered in the primogenitor realm was like a piece of fat meat. When he was around, those fellows would definitely not dare to act recklessly. However, the moment he left, those powerful enemies in the surroundings wouldn't be able to sit still. Forget it, what's the point of thinking so much? As long as I can recover my cultivation, even supreme paragons would be nothing but ants in front of this daddy. Ji Yufei murmured. At this moment, the Netherworld Devil Lord and the others had already entered the starry space, arriving in front of Ji Yufei. We pay our respects to Master. The Netherworld Devil Lord, Dragon Lord, and the others hurriedly went forward and bowed to Jiu Fei. Jiu Fei only nodded, then his gaze landed on Juziru and Mozian. Master, Juziru hurriedly came over and bowed. Mozian came in front of Jiu Fei flirtatiously. Her entire body emitted an irresistible charm. No one dared to take a second look at her, fearing that their souls would be taken away. Mozian was naturally charming. The demonic arts she cultivated became more and more terrifying as her cultivation increased. Even existences like the Netherworld Devil Lord couldn't resist her charm. Only Jiu Fei could completely ignore Mozian's charm. This made Mozian extremely depressed. It's time. Get ready. Jiu Fei looked at everyone and said, "Are we going to the heavenly god world?" Mozian heard this and instantly became extremely excited. What? The Netherworld Devil Lord, Dragon Lord, and the others heard this and were extremely shocked. Didn't they cultivate their entire lives just to break through the void and enter the heavenly god world? Jiu Fei didn't say anything and disappeared into the void. No one could clearly see how Jiu Fei disappeared. They didn't know that Jiu Fei had actually entered his own inner world. He didn't alarm anyone and directly came to the depths of this world. In front of him, dragons and phoenixes danced and immortal spiritual essence lingered. It was a treasured land of immortals. The immortal spiritual mist continuously transformed into dragons and phoenixes, as well as other extremely powerful immortal beasts. Swoosh! At this moment, a figure flashed through the mist. That is, Jiu Fei was extremely shocked. The living being that flashed through the mist was an existence that looked like the ancestral dragon. That was the immortal ancestral dragon herb. This was the reason why he entered the inner world. He wanted to find the immortal ancestral dragon herb and obtain a drop of its blood. Chapter 4087. Jiu Fei wouldn't stay in the immortal martial realm for too long. To him, he was just a passerby. However, the heavenly god realm was a high-grade world. The laws of heaven and earth there were much more complete compared to the immortal martial realm. The more complete the laws of heaven and earth in a world, the stronger the life forms born would be. A world with perfect laws of heaven and earth would be able to give birth to supreme paragons that could dominate the 9 heavens and trample over the 10 earths. He is finally leaving. Juziru and Mozian sighed ruefully. They had been following Jiu Fei ever since they were in the supreme origin realm. Regardless of Juziru or Mozian, they would never have imagined that they would reach this step. Not only did they become immortals, they even obtained the sky-shaking bow and the great Yin divine pearl. These items were all treasures they had never seen before even in their dreams. Juziru and Mozian were somewhat reluctant. After all, they had stayed in the immortal martial realm for a period of time. Naturally, what shocked them the most was that Jiu Fei had already broken through the void and ascended to the heavenly god realm in such a short time. They didn't need to prepare anything and could follow Jiu Fei to the heavenly god realm anytime. The news of Jiu Fei leaving the immortal martial realm soon circulated around the entire realm, causing everyone to be shocked. That fellow is finally going to leave. Someone heaved a sigh of relief. The moment Jiu Fei left, those fellows who were scared witless by Jiu Fei were instantly energized. This was especially so for the Eastern Martial Saint Emperor. He no longer needed to worry about Jiu Fei looking for him. Master is going to leave. What should we do? The Netherworld Devil Lord and the others couldn't sit still anymore. They had cultivated their entire lives. Wasn't it all for the sake of ascending to the heavenly god realm? Jiu Fei was able to open a pathway between the immortal martial realm and the heavenly god realm. To them, this was an extremely rare opportunity. If they missed this chance, they didn't know when they would have another chance to enter the heavenly god realm again. The remaining 6 hegemons all had a supreme power behind them. They didn't just represent themselves, they had to represent their sects as well. Among the 6 giants, there were some who were hesitant, some who were excited, and those who were hesitant were just unwilling to let go of the foundation behind them. Outside Jiu Fei's location, there were many people who wanted to pay their respects to Jiu Fei, but they were blocked by the Netherworld Devil Lord and the others. No matter who it was, even if it was a golden immortal, there was no need to talk about it. Even some of the old fogies of the Netherworld Devil race were blocked by the Netherworld Devil Lord. One of them was even the Netherworld Devil Lord's blood brother. However, if Gu Fei didn't nod his head, even if his father was here, he wouldn't dare to let him in. Outside the place where Gu Fei was at, almost all the strongest existences in the immortal martial realm had gathered. Countless ancient existences and old freaks had all exited their seclusion. Finally, an old man riding on a goat appeared in the horizon. Gu long ago Gu Fei's long ago demon, of a mountain, he had said. He was the fiery king who had destroyed the godly knife faction, and Gu Fei had made pills for him. The fiery king was a big shot in the ancient dark age. He was an overlord. It was not easy for him to live to this day. He had to pay a big price to do so. Flame Monarch. Both the Dark Hell Demon Lord and the Dragon Master were dumbfounded when they saw the old man on the old goat descending from the clouds. This was a ruthless character, especially when the Netherworld Ancestor snatched the Samsara Divine Pill that Gu Fei concocted for the Flame Monarch. The instant the Netherworld Devil Lord saw the Flame Monarch, his countenance turned incomparably heavy. The Netherworld Demon race had a deep connection with the Flame Monarch. The Netherworld Ancestor was an old ancestor of the Netherworld Demons. Even the Netherworld Devil Lord had to address him as uncle. Back then, when the Netherworld Ancestor was chased by the Flame Monarch for tens of millions of miles, it was a shocking matter that shook the entire immortal martial realm. Back then, the Flame Monarch consecutively destroyed 19 bases of the Netherworld Demons, killing countless demons. There were even earthly immortal and heavenly immortal demons that died in the hands of the Flame Monarch. The Flame Monarch was truly enraged. One must know that he was someone who was about to die. If he couldn't obtain the Samsara Divine Pill, he wouldn't be able to live a second life. The consequence would be the death of both his body and soul. The Netherworld Ancestor snatched the Flame Monarch's Samsara Divine Pill. That was equivalent to taking his life. Little devil brat. Indeed, when the Flame Monarch saw the Netherworld Devil Lord, his eyes were about to spit fire. With a roar, he stretched his right hand out and directly grabbed towards the Netherworld Devil Lord. Swish! Vast amounts of energy gushed forth as a gigantic palm appeared, directly enveloping the space above the Netherworld Devil Lord's head. This, when the influential people gathered at the entrance of the valley saw what was happening, they immediately fled in all directions. They were even faster than rabbits. For the past few days, the Flame Monarch had fought against the entire Netherworld demons alone. He had killed so many demons of the Netherworld that they were forced to retreat. Many famous old demons had died in his hands. Fighting against the demons alone, the Flame Monarch was extremely domineering. In fact, he was throwing caution to the wind. Since he was going to die either way, he might as well drag the demons down with him and kill as many as he could. Violent energy spread in all directions, causing the entire heaven and earth to tremble. Some of the cultivators with weaker cultivation were already so scared that they peed their pants. Even the immortals were trembling in fear. The Netherworld Devil Lord roared angrily and attacked with all his might. A piece of demon bone rushed out from the Netherworld Devil Lord's body and directly collided with the gigantic palm of the Flame Monarch. A faint demonic shadow appeared on the demon bone. This was the bone of the true demon. The demonic energy contained within it was extremely powerful. The scariest thing was that there was a remnant soul attached to the true demon bone. Boom! The demon bone directly collided with the gigantic palm of the Flame Monarch. In the next moment, after the two forces collided, it turned into a terrifying wave of energy that was vast and mighty. Then, a black hole appeared in the sky. At the edge of the black hole, there were even pitch-black space cracks that were like lightning spreading in all directions. Some cultivators who could not dodge in time were swept by the black space cracks. Their bodies were split into two and they fell from the sky. The void of the heaven and earth collapsed. The destructive force that was released was too strong. As long as one was touched by it, one's soul would be shattered by the killing force. The life of a cultivator was his soul. Once his soul was shattered, he would only be left with his skin. He would become a walking corpse without a soul. In an instant, there was a rain of blood in the sky. Many cultivators who were swept by the space cracks that appeared instantly died immediately. Seeing this, everyone was shocked. All of them retreated in a panic and did not dare to stay any longer. One should know that in a battle of this level, it was easy to be implicated. Chapter 4088. The old ancestor of the underworld had stolen Fiery King's reincarnation elixir. This was an unforgivable feud. Now that the old ancestor of the underworld had gone into hiding, it would not be easy for someone like Fiery King to find the old demon. Seeing that the day of his death was approaching, Fiery King was about to go crazy. He had lived for countless years and naturally did not want to die. Although he was unwilling to admit it, deep down in his heart, he was afraid of death. The higher his cultivation, the more he understood the truth of death, and the more he feared death. The old ancestor of the underworld was definitely hiding in a secret place to consume and refine his reincarnation elixir. Thinking of this, Fiery King gritted his teeth. His anger was burning in the 9 heavens. That guy was too despicable and despicable. He wanted to destroy the underworld clan. Tell me where the old demon is. Fiery King stared at the underworld demon lord and his eyes turned red. The reincarnation elixir was related to his life and death. I don't know. The underworld demon lord could only bite the bullet and go forward. This time, the entire underworld clan was in deep trouble because of the old ancestor of the underworld. How dare the old ancestor of the underworld provoke this lunatic? When Fiery King went crazy, he was even more terrifying than a demon. Then go to hell. Fiery King was too lazy to talk nonsense with the Lord of the Nether Hell Demon Lord. He pointed his finger at the Lord of the Nether Hell Demon Lord. In the next moment, a ray of divine light shot out from his finger and appeared in front of the Lord of the Nether Hell Demon Lord at an extremely fast speed. The underworld demon lord sneered. In the next moment, a piece of demonic bone blocked in front of him. Dong. The divine light that shot out from Fiery King's finger collided with the demonic bone and a deep sound was heard. It was like the beating of the war drums of the God of War temple. The souls of all the spectators were shaken, and those with weaker cultivations directly fell from the sky. Although these unlucky fellows did not fall to their deaths, they were covered in dust and looked battered. It's just a piece of dried-up bone and you want to fight with me? Fiery King laughed. He extended his right hand and a divine saber appeared in his hand. It was the celestial extermination saber that he took from the godly knife sect leader, Hubadao. When Fiery King destroyed the godly knife sect, he only used one move. Whoosh. Yang Jun hated the old ancestor of the underworld to the core. He attacked mercilessly and slashed at the lord of the underworld. The dazzling blade light instantly lit up the heaven and earth. The Dark Hell Demon Lord activated the demonic bone with all his might, and a monstrous demonic aura immediately erupted from the demonic bone, instantly enveloping the entire world. Suddenly, a chilly wind howled between heaven and earth, as if the night had arrived in an instant. Terrifying demonic shadows could be vaguely seen in the endless demonic aura. Even an existence like the Dragon Lord, who had the Dragon Emperor's reverse scale to protect himself, still felt a great deal of pressure. The reason why the Netherworld demons could survive for so many years, becoming one of the 10 strongest powers in the central immortal realms of the immortal martial realm, wasn't luck but strength. Only with great strength could one suppress the experts from all sides. Clang! The dazzling blade light was like an immortal light descending from the heavens, directly breaking through the layers of demonic chi and chopping down on the demonic bone. A metallic sound actually rang out. The immortal extinguishing saber was a golden immortal ranked immortal weapon. In the hands of Yang Jun, the might it could unleash was countless times stronger compared to when it was wielded by the sect leader of the godly saber sect, Hubadao. With just a single slash, the Netherworld Devil Lord's demonic bone was actually flung away. As the saber light landed, the Netherworld Devil Lord screamed in agony. Devil blood splattered as one of his arms was severed. The Netherworld Devil Lord directly retreated. At the same time, he stretched out his left hand and directly grabbed his severed right arm back. Devil blood flowed unceasingly from the wound. An extremely sharp saber chi directly invaded his body, rapidly extinguishing his life force. Preposterous. The Netherworld Devil Lord was both shocked and enraged. He desperately circulated the devil energy in his body, wanting to block the saber chi that was invading his head. Once the saber chi entered his divine palace, his soul would be damaged. Like an ant, you can't even block a single slash of mine. Yang Jun disdainfully spoke. Although the Netherworld Devil Lord was infuriated, there was nothing he could do. His opponent was an ancient expert, Yang Jun. In ancient times, Yang Jun was already a hegemon of a region. In the current era, in the entire immortal martial realm, there were no more than 3 people who could contend against Yang Jun. The Netherworld Devil Lord forcibly endured the pain of being sliced by countless sharp blades as he directly kept the demonic bone that was slashed away by Yang Jun. He opened his mouth and inhaled, instantly swallowing the demonic bone into his body. Rumble. An incomparably thunderous sound rang out from within the Netherworld Devil Lord's body. In the next instant, all the pores on his body were absorbing devil chi. Traces of blade chi seeped out of the Hades Demon Lord's body and then dissipated in the void. Immediately, hair-like spatial cracks appeared in the surrounding void. The Netherworld Devil Lord couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief when he felt that the saber chi that invaded his body was temporarily suppressed. Time to send you on your way. Yang Jun wielded the immortal extinguishing saber in his hand, wanting to finish off the Netherworld Devil Lord with a single slash. The Dragon Sovereign and the other hegemons didn't dare to step forward when they saw this. One must know that this was Yang Jun, a true ancient existence, a peerless ferocious character. Who would dare to antagonize this killing star? Yang Jun, you should know that this isn't a place where you can be impudent. The Netherworld Devil Lord stared at Yang Jun, who was brimming with killing intent, as he suddenly laughed. MHM? Surprisingly, Yang Jun wasn't angered when he heard this. Instead, his countenance turned heavy. This Netherworld Devil Lord was so daring because he had someone backing him. Not only that, that person wasn't an ordinary character. Even if you want to beat a dog, you have to look at its master. Fine, I will temporarily let you live a little longer. Yang Jun suppressed the anger in his heart. He truly didn't dare to offend the person behind the Netherworld Devil Lord because in the entire immortal martial realm, only that person could save him. The Netherworld Devil Lord instantly heaved a sigh of relief when he heard this. Why are you still not reporting for me? Yang Jun coldly spoke. The Netherworld Devil Lord cast a deep glance at Yang Jun before turning and walking into the valley. Very swiftly, the Netherworld Devil Lord came out. I won't see you. The Netherworld Devil Lord glanced at Yang Jun before speaking. Not meeting. Yang Jun was completely dumbfounded when he heard this. Since ancient times, there weren't many who dared to reject Yang Jun. Yang Jun cast a glance at the valley before speaking. Daoist Gu, as long as you can save me, I'm willing to do anything for you. He directly spoke into the valley. His voice wasn't loud, but it rang out from afar. At this moment, the Netherworld Devil Lord had already reconnected his severed arm, as though he had never been injured before. When he heard Yang Jun's words, he couldn't help but feel indescribably shocked. This old antique actually wanted to do anything for his master. Chapter 4089. The news of the Flame Monarch submitting to Ji Yufei and taking Ji Yufei as his master circulated, shocking the entire world. Even the Flame Monarch submitted to him. This Ji Yufei is simply too heaven-defying. Why did such a supreme expert suddenly appear in the Eastern Domain? This Ji Yufei is extremely mysterious. At this moment, in the entire immortal martial realm, as long as there were cultivators, they would all be discussing about Ji Yufei. One person suppressing 10 sects, this was something that had never happened before. Not only the Flame Monarch, even Wu Tongtian from the Wu clan of the Pill Cauldron Aristocrat clan was carefully serving Ji Yufei. Wu Tongtian was a direct descendant of the Wu clan and was also a grandmaster in alchemy. He could concoct mid-grade immortal pills, but he couldn't even concoct high-grade ones. Ever since he witnessed Ji Yufei's alchemy techniques, Wu Tongtian wanted nothing more than to take Ji Yufei as his master and learn Ji Yufei's alchemy techniques. At this moment, in the valley where Ji Yufei was at, under a huge tree, a black-robed young man sat cross-legged on a gigantic boulder. Below the boulder stood 7 to 8 people. Fairy Nebula, Xian Fanyun, and Long Tianxing, these unexcelled existences were all obediently standing below the boulder, not even daring to breathe loudly. Other than these geniuses from the central immortal realms, there were also those stronger than these geniuses of the immortal martial realm. These people were all existences that could cause the entire immortal martial realm to tremble with a single stomp. But now, these lofty existences were all extremely obedient in front of Ji Yufei. No matter what, the immortal martial realm was a mid-tier world that could produce golden immortals. Initially, Ji Yufei didn't want to leave behind any power in the immortal martial realm. But from the looks of it now, he had no choice but to leave them behind. Flame Monarch, the immortal martial realm will follow your lead. You have to work hard for me. Ji Yufei, who was sitting cross-legged on the boulder, calmly spoke. Yes, Master. Master, please don't worry. This little slave will definitely unify the immortal martial realm and conquer the tranquil heavens and earth for Master. Flame Monarch, who was riding on the old goat, hurriedly replied respectfully. Dragon Lord and the rest looked at Fiery King with envy. Very well. Crush the Skylink Dao talisman in your hand whenever you fulfill your promise, Ji Yufei said with a nod. The heaven-connecting Dao talisman was something he created. Even in the immortal martial realm, as long as the Flame Sovereign crushed the talisman, Ji Yufei would be able to sense it even if he was in the heavenly divine realm. He would then be able to use the Wheel of Heavens and Myriad Realms to break open the heaven and earth and bring the Flame King to the heavenly god realm. The Wheel of Heavens and Myriad Realms could communicate with the Myriad Realms. If one's cultivation was high enough, he could open up a passage between the Myriad Realms and Myriad Realms at the same time, allowing him to travel to any realm at will. Of course, this could only be done after Ji Yufei had fully recovered his cultivation. Thank you, Master. The Flame Sovereign was shocked and overjoyed. As long as he unified the immortal martial realm, he would be able to enter the heavenly divine realm. To a super antique like Fiery Monarch, entering the heavenly god realm was his lifelong wish. Do your best and you guys will also have a chance to ascend to the heavenly god realm. Ji Yufei emotionlessly glanced at the people below the huge rock. Yes, we are willing to sacrifice our lives for Master, even to the point of dying. Everyone hurriedly knelt down to Ji Yufei. Rumble, at this moment, the sound of thunder rang out from the depths of the sky. Bolts of lightning flashed in the sky. It's finally here. Ji Yufei inclined his head and stared at the sky, his countenance incomparably calm. However, the faces of the people around Ji Yufei all changed as they stared at the sky in terror. Ju Ziru, Mozian stay behind. The rest of you can disperse. Ji Yufei said indifferently. This, Master, can Xiaoyu stay behind? Wu Tongtian asked carefully. You. Ji Yufei cast a puzzled glance at Wu Tongtian. It's like this. Although Xiaoyu isn't a divine alchemist, I'm still a grandmaster in alchemy. If Xiaoyu goes to the heavenly god realm, I can concoct some pills for Master. Wu Tongtian hurriedly explained. This Wu Tongtian was a grandmaster of the Wu clan. And in the entire immortal martial realm, there was only one grandmaster in the entire Wu clan. Brother Ji Yu, you've lost a subordinate that you can dispatch. Mo Xiana spoke. Given Ji Yufei's cultivation base, he should have a large group of servants. However, she didn't expect that Ji Yufei didn't care about such things at all. To Ji Yufei, only strength was the most important. Ji Yufei pondered for a moment before nodding his head. Many thanks for Master's help. Wu Tongtian was overjoyed. However, the Wu clan lord beside Wu Tongtian had a heavy expression on his face. He was very clear that the moment Wu Tongtian left, the Wu clan would be in trouble. However, the Wu clan lord wasn't afraid. After all, Wu Tongtian was someone who followed by Ji Yufei's side. He was someone who worked for Ji Yufei. Even if there were people who wanted to make a move against the Wu clan after Ji Yufei left, they would have to think about the consequences. Not only that, Ji Yufei had left behind a representative in the immortal martial realm. Everyone, disperse. Ji Yufei flicked his sleeves as he stood up from the huge rock he was sitting on. Everyone hurriedly retreated. They had no choice but to retreat. The terrifying destructive aura that descended from the depths of the sky caused them to be unable to breathe. Is this the legendary Ascension Tribulation? The various hegemons who had retreated far away stared at the black clouds covering the sky. Countless bolts of lightning flashed within the black clouds, as though night had descended. All of them were indescribably shocked. Even though they were thousands of miles away, the dragon sovereign and the rest could still feel their souls trembling. The terror of the Ascension tribulation was simply unimaginable. Even the flame monarch's countenance was incomparably heavy. But he knew that this level of Ascension tribulation had no way to deal with Gu Fei. An hour later, the surroundings of the valley where Gu Fei was at, within a radius of tens of thousands of miles, there was no longer anyone to be seen. Even the flame monarch had retreated 30,000 miles away on his old goat. At this moment, the gigantic tribulation clouds formed a gigantic mushroom cloud in the air above the valley where Gu Fei was at. That mushroom cloud looked ordinary, but it was as though it contained the energy of the entire immortal martial realm. Just a single bolt of lightning would be able to tear the void apart. Even if it was a golden immortal, his body and soul would be destroyed. Only a heaven-defying existence like Gu Fei would dare to disregard the Ascension tribulation. And at this moment, in the valley, Gu Fei was calm and composed under the tribulation clouds. However, Mo Xian, Zhu Ziru, and Wu Tongtian had long been scared half to death. Gu Fei shook his head and with a wave of his sleeves, he directly kept them into his inner world. The heavenly tribulation hadn't even started and they were already unable to endure it. If the heavenly tribulation were to start, wouldn't Zhu Ziru and the rest be sent to meet King Yama? Gu Fei stood with his hands clasped behind his back. He inclined his head and stared at the tribulation clouds in the sky as a smile appeared on his face. Come. After saying that, Gu Fei's body shook and an even stronger aura burst out from his body. Chapter 4090. Gu Fei's Ascension tribulation finally activated. Rumble, thunderous booms shook the heavens and earth as bolts of lightning struck down from the tribulation clouds. Each bolt of lightning was as large as a mountain. Even a golden immortal would be instantly annihilated if they were struck by such tribulation lightning. Even for a demigod like the Flame Monarch who already had half a foot in the god realm, he definitely wouldn't be able to withstand such a terrifying Ascension tribulation. However, under the tribulation clouds, a divine light shone from Gu Fei's body. The destructive bolts of lightning directly blasted against the divine light. Gu Fei's protective divine light didn't even budge. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back, quietly floating in the air. Inclining his head, he stared at the tribulation clouds with a mischievous smile on his face. An Ascension tribulation of this level was a piece of cake to him. Very quickly, he was engulfed by countless bolts of lightning and fire. All the major characters who were spectating from tens of thousands of miles away were stunned by this incomparably shocking scene. Is this the might of the Ascension tribulation? Isn't this too terrifying? The Netherworld Devil Lord exclaimed. The valley where Gu Fei was at no longer existed. It was directly destroyed by the overwhelming destructive might. No one spoke, they were all silently watching. Some hoped that Gu Fei would succeed, breaking through the restraints of the heavens and earth. There were also some who couldn't wait for Gu Fei to fail, dying so that they could seize control of the immortal martial realm. Once Gu Fei left, the immortal martial realm would inevitably undergo a huge change. At this moment, the Ascension tribulation continued to revolve. The power of the tribulation spread throughout the entire immortal martial realm, and could be sensed from every corner of the immortal martial realm. Countless ancient existences were alarmed as they all headed towards the location where Gu Fei was undergoing his tribulation. Some legendary characters who had already fallen countless years ago also appeared in the eyes of the world once again. Rumble, the heavenly tribulation continued. In the center of the tribulation lightning, a silhouette could be seen. Gu Fei simply stood in the air, allowing the tribulation lightning to strike him. He didn't retaliate at all. Unknowingly, an hour had passed. Gu Fei simply could not sense whether the power of the heavenly tribulation had weakened or not. What happened? Gu Fei felt a little strange. If the power of the heavenly tribulation didn't weaken, wouldn't this heavenly tribulation have no signs of stopping? Is that Dao really going to undergo the tribulation with his own body? Gu Fei thought of a possibility. In that case, let's play. As Gu Fei spoke, He put away his protective mystic art. In the next moment, boundless tribulation lightning landed on his body. However, an unbelievable scene happened. Ji Yufei's shirt instantly turned into ashes, revealing his muscular upper body. Bolts of devastating tribulation lightning landed on Ji Yufei's body, but they didn't even leave a mark on him. Only after being struck by 81 bolts of tribulation lightning did it stop. Thunder fire true body. Ji Yufei directly used the power of thunder and lightning to temper his martial body. Soon, the Ascension God's tribulation was launched again. This time, it was not tribulation lightning that fell from the sky. Instead, it was humanoid or beast-like things. Boom! Ji Yufei directly killed his way into the powerful creatures condensed from lightning. He raised his hand and sent a wild beast flying. With a sweep of his leg, he swept a large snake away. The other creatures attacked Ji Yufei together. This was a siege, but Ji Yufei was not afraid. No matter how many incarnations of the heavenly path attacked him, it didn't matter to him. Ji Yufei fought with the incarnations of the heavenly path condensed from the power of the heavenly tribulation. In the end, he directly blasted them into pieces, turning them back into life marks and returning to the heavenly path. Ji Yufei was extremely powerful. He didn't wait for the heavenly tribulation to launch again. He directly rushed into the sky and killed his way into the tribulation clouds. In the next moment, the entire world was in chaos. The chaotic aura spread across the endless area. Hundreds of millions of creatures were terrified to the extreme. Beams of dragon-like divine light continuously rushed out of the tribulation clouds, directly piercing the void between heaven and earth. Some unlucky fellows, who couldn't dodge in time, were directly swept by the lightning that rushed out of the tribulation clouds. In an instant, their body and soul were destroyed, completely disappearing from the world. Ji Yufei directly used the mysterious art to devour the power of the heavenly tribulation. Rumble, very soon, the surrounding spiritual energy of heaven and earth frantically gathered towards Ji Yufei and was devoured by him. The aura emitted from his body became even stronger. Master, seeing Ji Yufei crash into the tribulation clouds in the sky, they were not lightly frightened. Ji Yufei simply sat cross-legged in the void and operated the heaven-devouring mysterious art. His martial body was like a bottomless black hole, it couldn't be filled at all. The heavenly tribulation of ascension was operating. This heavenly tribulation of ascension was simply here to deliver the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. It sent endless spiritual energy to Ji Yufei. At this time, there was no more suspense. Ji Yufei's heavenly tribulation was like a game to him. After 6 hours, the tribulation clouds dispersed and the world could see light again. As for Ji Yufei, he stood in the void. The tyrannical aura emitted from his body was so terrifying that it seemed to be able to crush the void between heaven and earth. At this time, under the gaze of tens of thousands of people, a beam of divine light directly fell from the depths of the sky and instantly enveloped Ji Yufei. In the next moment, the divine light directly rushed into the sky, broke the void, and entered the heavenly divine realm. At the heavenly divine realm, beside the deification pool, a green-robed cultivator sat on the ground and took a nap. At this time, the divine runes on the entire deification stage suddenly lit up. Then, beams of divine light rushed out, and a powerful aura spread in all directions. What happened? The green-robed cultivator directly jumped up from the ground. He rubbed his eyes and looked in disbelief at a figure in the sky above the deification stage. Haha, it's been 3,000 years. I've been guarding here for 3,000 years. The green-robed cultivator roared with incomparable excitement. At this time, Ji Yufei was looking around and sensing the surrounding spiritual energy of heaven and earth, but he was a little unhappy. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the heavenly divine realm didn't seem to be much thicker than the lower realm. What's going on? Ji Yufei was a little depressed. At this time, in front of the deification stage, the green-robed cultivator was surprised and happy. How many years had it been since someone had ascended, and he almost went crazy waiting. You are, Ji Yufei looked at the green-robed cultivator in front of him in confusion. Haha, me? I'm the envoy of the Southern God Emperor, Yang Iqian. The green-robed cultivator said with a laugh. Southern God Emperor? Gu Fei frowned when he heard this. The Southern God Emperor is the strongest existence in our southern region. He once tore apart a wild lion with his bare hands and trampled on a heavenly tiger. The green-robed cultivator Yang Iqian continued to explain. So that's how it is. Gu Fei understood now. The heavenly divine realm was a situation where various big shots ruled independently, and the Southern God Emperor was a God Emperor in the southern region of the heavenly divine realm, an overlord of a region. Chapter 4091. Yang Iqian was one of the envoys under the Southern Divine Emperor. His job was to guard the God-receiving platform and receive new true gods that ascended to the heavenly God realm. On the other hand, this Yang Iqian was very depressed. The others had been sent to the better places, where they could easily complete the guidance tasks and enter the Nantian Divine Palace as an inner disciple. However, because he had offended the son of a young elder of the South Heaven Divine Palace, he was sent to this God-forsaken place and had to stay there for 3,000 years. To a true god, their lifespan was incomparably long. 3,000 years was like a snap of a finger. But to Yang Iqian, these 3,000 years were extremely depressing. Brother, is it really that hard to survive in the lower realms? Only one person can ascend every 3,000 years. Yang Iqian said in disbelief. The lower realms you are talking about, are you referring to? Gu Fei looked at Yang Iqian. Yang Iqian's appearance was still very young, a romantic youth. However, if one were to look at his eyes, they weren't young at all. This God-receiving platform can only receive people from the immortal martial realm, Fiend God realm, Nether Abyss realm, and Golden Vast realm. Only one person can ascend every 3,000 years from the four great realms. This can't be justified. Yang Iqian rubbed his chin and said thoughtfully. If you ask me, I don't know the reason either. Gu Fei spread his hands and said. How can a small character like you know such a great secret of heaven and earth? Yang Iqian said arrogantly. Yes, Gu Fei said hurriedly. Brother, why aren't you entering the deification pool? Yang Iqian said to Gu Fei as he pointed to a pool beside the spirit-receiving platform that was shrouded in mist and shrouded in divine light. Deification pool? Gu Fei glanced at the pool and saw that it wasn't big, but it contained a powerful divine power. It could indeed change one's muscles and marrow and change one's physique. Once you enter the deification pool, everything in the lower realms will have nothing to do with you. The envoy, Yang Iqian, looked at the pool and said with some emotion. No way, people from the upper realm can't go to the lower realm? Gu Fei asked. To the lower realm? You think too much. In the heavenly god realm, only those invincible god ancestors or demon ancestors can go to the mortal world. Do you think you are one of those magnates? Yang Iqian said disdainfully. There's a huge price to pay for crossing worlds. Yang Iqian continued. Gu Fei nodded inwardly. He naturally knew the price of crossing realms. However, if he could restore his eternal realm cultivation base, coupled with the wheel of myriad heavens realms, crossing realms would be a trivial matter. Go down and wash away your past. From now on, you are a member of the heavenly god realm. Yang Iqian said as he kicked Gu Fei into the deification pool. With a splash, Gu Fei directly smashed into the deification pool. As soon as he entered the deification pool, the dense heaven and earth spiritual qi in the surroundings immediately gathered towards him. Strands of spiritual light visible to the naked eye gradually wrapped around him like silk. Looking at Gu Fei in the middle of the deification pool, Yang Iqian smiled and returned to the stone block beside the spirit-connecting platform and sat down cross-legged. In the past 3,000 years, no one from the immortal martial realm and the other three great realms was able to ascend to the heavenly god realm. The heaven and earth spiritual qi in the deification pool was so dense that it was almost liquefied. Such a huge amount of essence qi had actually benefited Gu Fei. Before Gu Fei was beaten into samsara by the first primogenitor, he already had the eternal martial body. Now, he didn't need to transform. However, he needed endless heaven and earth spiritual qi to recover his cultivation base. If his heart was ruthless enough, he could be like the devil cultivators, unscrupulously using the heaven and earth spiritual qi to recover his cultivation base, it would be much faster. However, Ji Yufei could not bring himself to do something like slaughtering billions of living beings. At this moment, the heaven and earth spiritual qi in the deification pool that had been condensed for 3,000 years was slowly being guided by Ji Yufei. Soon, the place where Ji Yufei was at turned into a heaven and earth spiritual qi vortex. A cocoon appeared in the center of the vortex. Countless strands of spiritual light rushed over from all directions and entered the divine cocoon. 2 hours later, Yang Yiqian, who was sitting cross-legged in front of the spirit connecting platform, finally felt the strangeness of the deification pool. How is this possible? Yang Yiqian was a little shocked. Normally, those who ascended from the lower realms would stay in the deification pool for at most an hour before coming out. However, why did this little fellow named Ji Yufei stay in the deification pool for so long? Of course, the deification pool was a place where one could transform into a divine being, so it was impossible for them to drown in it. However, after completing the transformation of their divine bodies, they would have to leave the deification pool. Because even if they stayed in the deification pool, they wouldn't gain any benefits. Yang Yiqian stood up abruptly and stared at the deification pool with a look of extreme shock on his face. At this time, the spiritual mist that shrouded the deification pool had disappeared, and even the divine light had dimmed. The spiritual qi in the deification pool was rapidly flowing away. This guy is not simple, Yang Yiqian said in surprise. After waiting for 3,000 years, this ascendant was really not simple. It must be noted that no one had used the deification pool for 3,000 years, and even he couldn't withstand the spiritual qi that was condensed. Yet, this guy was still absorbing the spiritual qi in the deification pool. If it was an ordinary person, their divine body would have long exploded from the huge amount of spiritual qi. What's going on? Yang Yiqian muttered to himself thoughtfully. Before he knew it, another 2 hours had passed. The spiritual qi in the deification pool was still rapidly flowing away, being devoured by the divine cocoon. The originally clear deification pool had become somewhat turbid. He's still absorbing the spiritual qi in the deification pool? At this time, Yang Yiqian was really shocked. Rumble, faint sounds of thunder came from the sky, and the world gradually darkened. Yang Yiqian raised his head and looked at the sky. He was indescribably shocked. He could sense a terrifying destructive energy condensing between heaven and earth. Heavenly tribulation? Yang Yiqian was in disbelief. Isn't this guy who just ascended a little too heaven-defying? He has already triggered a heavenly tribulation in less than 6 hours. In the heavenly god realm, those who had just ascended from the lower realms were called deities. Above deities were deity kings, the king of deities. Above deity kings were deity emperors, and above deity emperors were god emperors. Above god emperors were ancestor gods. Above ancestor gods, one could shatter the void and ascend to the perfect world. In the entire heaven god realm, god emperors were the overlords of a region. In the southern region of the divine realm, the southern heaven god emperor was just one of the overlords. The entire southern region had a total of 5 overlords. The southern heaven god emperor ruled over the eastern part of the southern region, which was millions of miles wide and filled with countless living beings. In the entire southern divine region, the southern heaven god emperor was almost invincible. At this moment, the dark sky suddenly brightened, and the thunder also went far away, quickly disappearing. This gave Yang Yiqian a very surreal feeling. It was as if nothing had happened. At this moment, the divine cocoon in the deification pool began to dissipate, and a figure appeared in the pool. Yang Yiqian was shocked. He had been a true god for close to 10,000 years, but he had never seen something so strange. Could this guy who just ascended from the lower realm be able to control the heavenly tribulation? Splash! The sound of water could be heard as Ji Yufei walked out from the deification pool. Yang Yiqian was shocked when he sensed the fluctuation of spiritual energy in the deification pool. The spiritual energy that was accumulated in the deification pool for 3,000 years had disappeared. This guy was simply a monster. Yang Yiqian had been cultivating for 10,000 years, but he had only reached the grand success stage of the true God realm. But now, this guy's cultivation had actually reached the mid-level true God realm. If news of this cultivation speed were to spread, it would surely shake the entire heaven God realm. How did you do it? Yang Yiqian asked. His throat felt dry. What do you mean, how did I do it? Ji Yufei asked curiously. Your cultivation has increased by an entire level. Yang Yiqian said. I don't know what's going on either. Ji Yufei scratched his head and said. Follow me. Yang Yiqian took a deep look at Ji Yufei before he charged into the distance. In the heavenly God realm, true gods could not fly in the sky. The heaven and earth energy in the upper grade world was extremely powerful. To fly in the sky, one had to be at least a god king. However, cultivating to the divine king realm was not an easy matter. Ji Yufei quickly chased after Huang Xiaolong. He could actually fly in the sky, but in order to avoid being seen by others, he chose to run on foot. About 2 hours later, Yang Yiqian and Ji Yufei arrived in front of a small city. This was an ancient city. Even though it wasn't big, it was a very famous city in this region of 10,000 miles. This ancient city had existed for countless years, witnessing the rise and fall of the entire region. It was noon, and the sun was shining brightly. Cultivators could be seen coming and going in the city. Yang Yiqian and Ji Yufei entered the city together and went to the Drunken God restaurant. This restaurant was the most famous restaurant in the southern Kuan ancient city. Even a true god would be drunk after drinking 3 bowls of the Drunken God wine. Brother Ji Yu, this southern Kuan ancient city's Drunken God wine is not bad. Not only can you consolidate your cultivation, but it can also make your divine body more perfect. You have to taste it, Yang Yiqian said as he walked upstairs. When he reached the 2nd floor, Yang Yiqian's expression suddenly changed. It's really a small world. Yang Yiqian was about to turn and walk to the 3rd floor. Hey, isn't that Yang Yiqian? An exclamation was heard. Wang Chen. Yang Yiqian's eyes narrowed when he saw the few people by the window. What's wrong? Ji Yufei hurriedly asked when he saw that Yang Yiqian's expression had turned ugly. Let's go, I'll bring you to meet Wang Chen, the Grand Master Wang of the Nantian Divine Palace. Yang Yiqian raised his head and said proudly. Grand Master Wang? Chapter 4092. In the southern Kuan ancient city, on the 2nd floor of the Drunken God restaurant, the guide envoy Yang Yiqian met his opponent, Wang Chen, who was also a guide envoy. Wang Chen came from a cultivation clan in the southern divine region, the Wang family. In the southern divine region, the Wang family was naturally no match for the 5 great divine regions, but they were not inferior by much. Wang Chen was also an inner disciple of the Nantian Divine Palace, while Yang Yiqian was just an ordinary disciple. Wang Chen, what kind of wind blew a great god like you here? Yang Yiqian sat down opposite Wang Chen. Ji Yufei naturally stood to the side and watched quietly without saying a word. Hehe, Yang Yiqian, you are not well informed. Don't you know that a divine beast has appeared in the Nan Kuan mountain range? Wang Chen smiled proudly. Divine beast? Ji Yufei's eyes lit up. The Nan Kuan mountain range was just a barren land. There was no way a divine beast could be born here. Moreover, not just anyone could subdue a divine beast. This guy is the ascender you have been waiting for 3,000 years. The young master of the Wang clan cast a disdainful glance at Ji Yufei, who was standing beside Yang Yiqian. Yang Yiqian sneered. He did not say anything, which meant that he had admitted it. Looks like this guy is the same as you, a piece of trash. Wang Chen sneered. What did you say? Yang Yiqian was enraged. He, isn't he? Wang Chen looked at Yang Yiqian with disdain. Haha, Yang Yiqian suddenly burst into laughter. What are you laughing at? Wang Chen asked. I am laughing at your stupidity, Yang Yiqian sneered. You said I am stupid? Wang Chen gritted his teeth. What? Can't you tell me? Yang Yiqian said indifferently. How dare you, Yang Yiqian? Do you dare to enter the life and death ring? Wang Chen said angrily. Life and death ring? When Yang Yiqian heard this, he could not help but be moved. The life and death ring was a place for duels. It was also a place for cultivators to settle their personal grudges. In the life and death arena, one's life and death were up to fate. One could not find trouble with the other party after the battle. There was also a life and death ring in Nanku, an ancient city that had not been used for many years. Why wouldn't I dare? Yang Ichen raged. That's good. Follow me if you have the guts. After saying that, Wang Chen took out a divine crystal and threw it on the table. Then, he left the Drunken God restaurant with his subordinates. Arena of life and death? Ji Yufei asked curiously. That's a place for people to fight. Yang Ichen said solemnly. I see. Ji Yufei nodded. Let's go to the life and death arena. With that, Yang Ichen left the Drunken God restaurant. Ji Yufei naturally followed behind Yang Ichen. He was unfamiliar with this place and wanted to learn more about it. Very quickly, they arrived below the life and death stage. On the life and death stage stood a person. That person, if it wasn't Wang Chen, who else could it be? You really want to go up? Ji Yufei said to Yang Ichen. Are you kidding me? Yang Ichen said snappily. Ji Yufei was speechless. Once on the life and death stage, life and death would be up to fate. Yang Ichen leaped up and landed on the life and death stage. At this moment, the cultivators who heard the news all rushed towards the life and death stage. Very quickly, countless cultivators gathered around the life and death stage. Everyone looked curiously at the two experts who were facing each other on the life and death stage. Two powerful auras were rising continuously and powerful energy waves were emitted from both of them. Ji Yufei looked at the two people on the life and death stage calmly. To him, both of them were evenly matched and it wouldn't be easy to determine a winner. Kill. When the two gods' auras rose to the peak, both of them attacked at the same time. Boom. The two fists collided with each other in an instant, producing a dull thunder-like sound. The two figures separated in an instant, and then charged at each other again. The two figures moved quickly on the life and death stage. Bam! Boom! The sound of collision could be heard continuously. The two gods didn't hold back and wanted to kill each other. Catcher! The sound of bones breaking could be heard. Yang Ichen screamed in pain and was sent flying. He then fell heavily on the life and death stage. Trash! Not only are you trash, your parents are also trash. That's why they gave birth to you. Wang Chen said coldly. Damn it. Yang Ichen sat up from the ground. At this moment, he felt pain all over his body. It was as if he was going to fall apart. Die. Wang Chen's right hand grabbed in the air and a divine saber appeared in his hand. Whoosh. Without any hesitation, Wang Chen slashed at Yang Ichen with his saber. Wherever the saber light passed, it only left a ripple in the void. Yang Ichen was neither hurried nor slow. In the next moment, his divine body suddenly became blurry. The extremely sharp saber light directly slashed through his body. Bam! At the same time, Yang Ichen's left fist landed on Wang Chen's chest. However, in the next moment, Wang Chen's smile froze on his face. Without any suspense, Wang Chen was sent flying thousands of miles away by Ji Yufei. However, he was protected by a secret treasure and did not suffer much damage. Wang Chen was enraged. He roared and as if he had turned into a huge dragon, he pounced at Yang Ichen fiercely. Die! Yang Ichen punched out again, and the entire heaven and earth shook. There was no dazzling divine light, nor was there any sharp sword light. However, the power displayed by this punch was tyrannical to the extreme. Even if there was a huge mountain in front of Yang Ichen, he would still be able to explode it with a single punch. The two extremely powerful forces collided with each other in an instant. The violent force exploded, and the wind howled in the life and death ring and the sun and moon dimmed. Hey! At this moment, Ji Yufei's eyes lit up. In the next moment, Yang Ichen screamed and fell from the life and death stage. Ji Yufei hurriedly flew up and caught Yang Ichen who was falling. Yang Ichen was in a sorry state. His body was covered in blood, especially on his left shoulder. There was a very long wound that was deep to the bone. Trash. You don't like it? Fight me then. Wang Chen laughed unscrupulously. Mph, how can these guys be Brother Wang's opponents? A young cultivator with Wang Chen looked at Ji Yufei and the others with a look of disdain. Fight me if you don't like it. Ji Yufei smiled. At this moment, Yang Yiqian sat on the ground in a lotus position and used his qi to suppress his injuries. Don't go. You are not his opponent. Seeing that Ji Yufei was going to fight Wang Chen, Yang Yiqian couldn't help being shocked. However, Ji Yufei continued to walk towards the arena of life and death step by step. Then, he walked onto the arena of life and death unhurriedly and stood opposite Wang Chen. You don't like it? Wang Chen stared coldly at Ji Yufei as the corner of his lips curled up. He looked extremely frivolous and insolent. You know the answer, Ji Yufei said calmly. Do you know what will happen if you go on the life and death stage? Wang Chen continued. Die, or live. Ji Yufei's voice seemed to never be fast or slow. Since you know, then I will send you on your way. Wang Chen reached out his right hand. His 5 fingers were like a steel frame, aiming for the top of Ji Yufei's head. He wanted to scratch out 5 holes on Ji Yufei's head. Ji Yufei also reached out his right hand. He grabbed Wang Chen's hand and exerted force. Catcher. With a sound, Wang Chen's entire right arm was twisted like a fried dough twist. The bones in his arm were broken into countless pieces. Wang Chen screamed like a pig being slaughtered. Then, he was kicked off the life and death stage by Ji Yufei, falling flat on his face. Everyone who witnessed this scene was dumbfounded. They were dumbfounded and couldn't believe it. What did I just see? Someone muttered. Ji Yufei actually crippled Wang Chen with one move. This made everyone feel like they were in a dream. This scene was too unreal. The few people that Wang Chen brought were shocked and furious. Fight me if you're not convinced. Ji Yufei stood on the stage and looked at the clowns below the stage coldly. Do you know who you injured? You're dead. The people brought by Wang Chen said to Ji Yufei in a stern tone. TSK. Ji Yufei didn't care at all. Who cares if they were the emperor? As long as they dared to provoke him, he would kill them with a punch. Fight me if you're not convinced. On the life and death stage, Ji Yufei stood with his hands behind his back, displaying the demeanor of an expert. Countless cultivators below the life and death stage didn't say anything. The guys that Wang Chen brought only dared to squeak under the life and death stage, but didn't dare to go up. One must know that going up on the life and death stage wasn't a joke. If you were beaten to death, no one would avenge you. Of course, no one knew if there was someone secretly making a move. Doing it openly was definitely not allowed. This was the rule of the heavenly god realm. The grudges that happened on the life and death stage couldn't be pursued by either side. Even those big shots in the heavenly god realm didn't dare to break this rule. Haha. You still dare to call us trash? You guys are the trash among trash. Yang Yiqian laughed. Wang Chen's face was ashen. He was so angry that his whole body was trembling. He spat out a mouthful of old blood and fainted. Ji Yufei suppressed everyone. No one dared to go up on the life and death stage. However, just when everyone thought that there was no show to watch, a figure came from afar and directly came to the bottom of the life and death stage. He raised his head and looked at Ji Yufei on the stage. It's young master. Young master is here. Haha, kid, you're still not dead this time? The few fellows that Wang Chen brought with him started to shout again. Wang family's young master, Wang Yong. Looking at the slender and handsome young man in white, Yang Yiqian's pupils couldn't help but shrink. Chapter 4093. Ji Yufei had defeated Wang Chen with a single move, shocking the entire southern Kuan ancient city. He stood on the ring of life and death with his hands behind his back, looking down at the world. Even Yang Yiqian was startled. However, Ji Yufei's opponent was the Wang clan. Since he had beaten up Wang Chen, the Wang clan would definitely not let it go. They would definitely find trouble with Ji Yufei. In the southern Kuan ancient city, the cultivators gathered around the ring of life and death were not optimistic about Ji Yufei's chances. The Wang clan was only slightly weaker than the 5 great authorities. Even the 5 great authorities of the southern divine region would not dare to offend the Wang clan. They could only try to rope in a force like the Wang clan, as a direct confrontation would only result in both sides suffering great losses, allowing the other forces to benefit. However, Ji Yufei had beaten up Wang Chen, a direct descendant of the Wang clan. Even the Southern Heaven God Emperor would not be able to protect him. One should know that the Wang clan was quite influential in the Southern Heaven Emperor Palace. The Wang clan and the Southern Heaven God Emperor were allies, in-laws, and grasshoppers on the same rope. After Ji Yufei defeated Wang Chen, the young master of the Wang clan, Wang Yong, arrived. The appearance of a divine beast in the southern Kuan mountain range had attracted the young master of the Wang clan. This young man is doomed. Wang Yong has the 9 godly physique. I heard that when he was born, there was a miraculous scene of 9 suns illuminating the sky. Someone stared at the young man below the ring of life and death. Wang Yong was the direct descendant of the Wang clan, but he was different from Wang Chen. Although Wang Chen was also a direct descendant, he was still weaker than Wang Yong. Wang Yong was the real young master of the Wang clan, the son of the patriarch. As the patriarch of the Wang clan, he naturally doted on him. Furthermore, Wang Yong was also very hardworking. He had reached the greater success stage of the true God realm before the age of 20, which was many times stronger than Yang Yiqian, who had only reached the greater success stage of the true God realm after cultivating for 10,000 years. Furthermore, the 9 godly physique was extremely powerful. For an existence like Yang Yiqian, Wang Yong could kill him countless times with a flick of his finger. Although the king's officials are useless, it is not up to outsiders to teach them a lesson. Wang Yong's white robes fluttered in the wind as fiery qi swirled around his body. 9 divine suns seemed to be faintly discernible in the void around him. A terrifying power gathered in his body. Once this power erupted, it seemed to be able to destroy everything. Really? Ji Yufei clasped his hands behind his back as he looked at the young man below. His lips curled up into a smile. Kill yourself. Wang Yong looked at Ji Yufei on the life and death ring and said faintly, "Are you kidding me?" Ji Yufei said disapprovingly, "If you want me to make a move, you won't be able to die even if you want to." As Wang Yong said that, a powerful pressure immediately erupted from his body. It was as if the entire sky had condensed all of a sudden. The surrounding cultivators turned pale with fright and immediately retreated into the distance. A pressure of this level was not something that ordinary people could endure. The young master of the Wang clan is about to make his move. Everyone was extremely excited. They had only heard about how powerful the young master of the Wang clan was, but no one had ever seen him in action before. "Brother Nan, this Wang Yong is as famous as you. He is ranked 32nd on the Southern Divine Region's Heaven ranking. He is only 1 rank away from catching up to you." 2 young men stood on top of a pavilion in the distance. One of them was dressed in a green robe and stood with his hands behind his back. He was a handsome young man with a slender figure. The other person was a lady in a purple robe. The 2 of them could be said to be a match made in heaven. "Junior sister Yuan, you are not bad yourself. You are ranked 35th on the heaven ranking. Why don't you challenge Wang Yong and defeat him? Then you will be ranked 32nd on the heaven ranking," Nan Ling Yijian said. The lady in the purple robe was called Yuan Zi. She was related to Nan Ling Yijian's sect. In another direction, there were also experts on the heaven ranking. The heaven ranking was created by an ancient sect in the heavenly realm. Those on the ranking were all geniuses. Someone like Wang Yong, who possessed the divine constitution of the 9 suns, was only ranked 32nd on the heaven ranking. Nan Ling Yijian was ranked 31st. Boom. At this time, a muffled sound could be heard. The entire southern Kuan ancient city trembled. On the life and death stage, Ji Yufei and Wang Yong stood opposite each other. The shockwaves from their bodies collided with each other, causing the void around them to tremble. How is this possible? Yang Yiqian's eyes almost popped out of their sockets when he saw this scene. Ji Yufei had just ascended to the heavenly realm not long ago, and he was only a mid-level true god. Wang Yong was a late-stage true god. Ji Yufei could actually challenge a late-stage true god like Wang Yong with his mid-level true god cultivation. Wang Yong was no ordinary true god. He was someone who possessed the divine constitution of the 9 suns. The divine constitution of the 9 suns was so powerful that it could defeat cultivators of the same level. I have underestimated you. Wang Yong stared at Ji Yufei with excitement. It had been a long time since he had met an opponent like Ji Yufei. You are not underestimating me. You have overestimated yourself. Ji Yufei said indifferently. Is that so? Wang Yong smiled and did not say anything else. At this moment, it was useless to say anything. Only with a strong fist would others respect and fear you. Both of them did not speak. Ji Yufei was still relaxed. Wang Yong was strong, but he was not a weakling either. The surroundings were silent as everyone stared at the 2 people on the life and death stage nervously. This fella dares to go against young master? Wang Chen was shocked. One should know that Wang Yong was the idol of the younger generation. Could this fella be the son of some god emperor? Someone guessed. This person is only a mid-level true god. Nanling Yijian said indifferently from a pavilion far away. Could it be that he has a divine physique that is even more heaven-defying than the divine constitution of the 9 suns? Yuan Zi frowned. However, she could not tell what kind of divine physique Ji Yufei had. You will know soon. Nanling Yijian said. Wang Yong has met his match this time. A black-clothed man stood on a tree far away. This black-clothed man crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked at the 2 people on the life and death stage indifferently. At this moment, Ji Yufei moved. Boom. In the next moment, the 9-yang divine force in Wang Yong's body exploded. It was as terrifying as the eruption of 100,000 volcanoes. In an instant, the entire life and death stage was engulfed by divine fire. The divine fire caused the void to distort. Wang Yong's first move was a thunderous strike. Everyone was inexplicably shocked. In the sea of fire, a layer of divine light emerged from Ji Yufei's body and blocked the divine fire from all directions. Then, he pointed his finger and pierced through the layers of divine fire towards Wang Yong. Buzz! The space in front of Wang Yong trembled. Divine fire surged, and a divine sun appeared in front of him, blocking the finger light that was about to pierce through. However, at this moment, a huge hand pierced through the divine sun and hit Wang Yong's chest. In the next moment, Wang Yong's feet left the ground and he was sent flying. Roar! Wang Yong roared and the 9-yang divine force surged from his body. 9 wheels of divine light rushed out of his body and dissolved the power of Ji Yufei's palm. A trace of blood seeped from the corner of Wang Yong's mouth. He slowly landed on the life and death stage. Bang! The moment his feet touched the ground shook violently, as if it had been ruthlessly smashed by a 500-kilogram hammer. Then, 9 balls of fire rushed out of Wang Yong's body and turned into golden birds. They circled around him. Every golden bird emitted the extremely terrifying power of the 9-yang divine fire, which was enough to burn the void. Go! Wang Yong waved his right hand, and the 9 golden birds flying around him immediately flew towards Ji Yufei. At this moment, Ji Yufei started punching. He immediately got into a stance, and in the next moment, the 9 golden birds that swooped down were directly blown away. What? Seeing this, Wang Yong was dumbfounded. Rumble! In the next moment, boundless divine power surged out of Ji Yufei's right hand and turned into a black dragon that was dozens of meters long. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it broke through the layers of divine fire and pounced towards Wang Yong. 5 elements into 5 fire, 9 yang move heaven and earth. Wang Yong circulated the 5 elemental 9 yang divine fire technique with all his might. He waved his hands and 9 balls of 5-colored divine fire appeared in front of him. He pushed his palms upwards as if he was holding up 9 dazzling suns. Boom! With an earth-shattering boom, the 9 balls of divine fire that soared into the sky instantly collided with the black dragon that was swooping down fiercely. Terrifying yuan qi rippled out in all directions, and cracks immediately appeared on the ground beneath Wang Yong's feet. The entire life and death stage shook. Even the spectating cultivators could feel the tremors coming from beneath their feet. Is this the power of a profound true god? The surrounding cultivators were shocked. The young master of the Wang clan, Wang Yong, was indeed powerful. That attack had the power to split heaven and earth. Even Nanling Yijian and Yuan Zi could not help but be moved when they sensed the terrifying might of Wang Yong's attack. Wang Yong, who was ranked 32nd on the heaven ranking, was indeed capable of being arrogant. Young master is invincible. Young master is invincible. Young master will win. The people from the Wang clan cheered. At this moment, a figure walked out from the divine fire. It was Ji Yufei. He looked as if he was taking a stroll in the park and was not affected at all. Good. Again. At this moment, Wang Yong finally became serious. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Ji Yufei stood proudly and stared fiercely at Wang Yong. He was still punching, and no one could tell what he was punching. Each move was simple and direct, but its power was earth-shattering. 9 suns fall. Wang Yong roared. Endless divine power of the 9 suns burst out from his body. In the next moment, 9 sun-like divine lights appeared in the sky. It was a miracle. All the cultivators in South Kuan City were dumbfounded. Chapter 4094. In the Nankuan ancient city, Ji Yufei and Wang Yong were dueling. Wang Yong finally got serious and displayed the killer move of the descending 9 suns. 9 divine suns descended from the sky and the whole world shook. It was like the end of the world. Everyone who saw this scene was stunned. Is this really the killer move of the Wang family? The older generation of martial artists were all shocked. This was a killer move. It was so powerful that it was said to be able to break through hell. If this guy can take this move, he should be proud. Nanling One Sword said in shock when he saw this scene. Wang Yong was really scary when he was serious. All the martial artists who were watching the fight were stunned. Boom! With a loud bang, the two forces instantly collided with each other, and the resulting energy fluctuations spread in all directions. If it were not for the array of the life and death stage, the whole ancient city would have been destroyed in an instant. At this moment, Wang Yong let out a loud roar and stomped his feet on the ground. Like a fire dragon, he charged toward Ji Yufei and threw a punch at the same time. Rumble, a deafening thunderclap rang out, and countless sparks instantly condensed in the void, turning into a huge hand that emitted monstrous divine fire. In an instant, it enveloped Ji Yufei. As soon as Wang Yong made his move, the spiritual qi of heaven and earth within a radius of 1,000 feet immediately gathered toward him. Buzz! The void trembled. Ji Yufei waved his fists and directly shattered the giant hand of divine fire that was descending from the sky. Eat my fist! Ji Yufei bellowed in anger. He casually threw out a punch, causing the space around him to tremble as he forced Wang Yong to retreat. 5 elements gather, heavenly fire, kill, Wang Yong roared. The power of the 5 elements gathered in his hand and turned into a dazzling blade light. It was a blade of fire. Swoosh! Without any hesitation, Wang Yong slashed down with his saber. The 9-sun divine fire saber broke through Ji Yufei's fist force with irresistible force. The saber light fell down and directly slashed at Ji Yufei's neck. Everyone who witnessed this scene was stunned, and their eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets. Nanling Sword and Yuan Zi, who were initially calm, could not help but change their expressions. However, a scene that made everyone dumbfounded appeared. Wang Yong's 9-yang divine blade was actually unable to break through Ji Yufei's skin and flesh, and the divine blade was repelled. What? Wang Yong's shock was no small matter. This guy's divine body is actually so strong. Everyone watching the battle was dumbfounded. I don't believe I can't kill you. Wang Yong was shocked and angered at the same time. A terrifying killing intent burst out from his body, causing the surrounding temperature to drop rapidly. All the cultivators within a radius of several thousand feet felt a chill down their spine, and they quickly backed away. This guy is dead for sure. Wang Yong has the 9-yang divine body. In a building far away, Nanling Yijian and Yuan Zi did not have high hopes for Ji Yufei. Wang Yong activated his mystic skill with all his might, and an earth-shattering aura burst out from his body, sweeping across the sky and earth. The weaker cultivators trembled in fear on the spot. In the next moment, Wang Yong stomped on the ground and burst out with extreme speed. His powerful divine body moved quickly in the void, and a sharp air-piercing sound was heard. This speed, everyone watching the battle widened their eyes when they saw this. Ji Yufei was also a little surprised. However, in Ji Yufei's eyes, Wang Yong's movements seemed to be in slow motion. When Wang Yong punched out, he instantly sensed the trajectory of Wang Yong's fist and made his move. Bang! Crack! Wang Yong was sent flying 100 meters away by Ji Yufei's punch. He crashed into a stone pillar beside the arena of life and death and rolled on the ground. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. Hey! Ji Yufei was surprised to see that Wang Yong was still alive after taking a punch from him. The strength of his martial physique was extremely strong. Even a great perfection true god would not be able to withstand his punch. Ji Yufei strode forward and grabbed the Wang family's young master. Then, he tore open his clothes, only to see that the Wang family's young master was actually wearing a soft armor. Seeing the soft armor, Ji Yufei smiled. He did not expect Wang Yong to have something good on him. It was the golden scale armor, which could make one invulnerable to weapons. This was a soft armor refined from the leather of a mythological beast, the golden scale beast. This golden scale armor was as light as a feather and could protect the upper body very well when worn. However, Ji Yufei's strength was too strong. Although the golden scale armor had blocked most of the fist force, Wang Yong was still severely injured. Almost all of his ribs were broken. After suffering such heavy injuries, even someone as powerful as Wang Yong would die if he was not treated in time. You dare to kill me? Wang Yong stared fiercely at Ji Yufei. He was the genius of the Wang clan, the favorite great-great-grandson of the Wang clan's old ancestor, and the biological son of the current clan leader. If he were to die here, the Wang clan would definitely not let the matter rest. Ji Yufei took off the golden scale armor from Wang Yong's body. He then threw Wang Yong to the side and put on the golden scale armor. Wang Yong was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Not bad. It fits me well. Ji Yufei nodded in satisfaction. Wang Yong spat out a mouthful of blood. Ji Yufei then walked towards Wang Yong and stepped on the head of this genius from the Wang family. You can't kill me. I am the ancestor's favorite great-great-grandson. If you kill me, the ancestor will bury the entire Nankuan ancient city with me. Wang Yong panicked and said hurriedly. Everyone looked at Ji Yufei nervously. The ancestor of the Wang clan was a Xiantian grandmaster. When a grandmaster was angry, he could destroy an entire city and wipe out an entire clan. Ji Yufei smiled, and then he exerted force with his right foot. Crack! He actually crushed Wang Yong's head without the slightest hesitation. Seeing this scene, all the cultivators were shocked. Some even cried out in surprise. This guy really dared to do that. Wang clan? The ancestor of the Wang clan? Humph. Ji Yufei did not think much of it. You killed Wang Yong? Yang Yiqian almost wanted to die. That was Wang Yong, and he died just like that. I really admire your calmness. Just then, Ji Yufei's eyes fell on a woman in black who was standing below the life and death ring. The woman in black suddenly smiled and said, "Why can't I be calm?" The woman's voice was pleasing to the ear. It was as if there was an inexplicable attraction that made people want to hear it again. Chaos divine sound? Ji Yufei's heart skipped a beat as he frowned. Could this mysterious woman be a member of the devil cult? The art of musical assassination was the hardest to defend against. However, this art of musical assassination required one's mental strength in order to have the power to confuse one's mind. This woman's cultivation was most likely at the greater success true god realm. Ji Yufei was once invincible in the world. With his vast knowledge, he could roughly see through the mysterious woman's background and the skill she was using with just a glance. You wanted to ambush me just now, didn't you? Ji Yufei stood with his hands behind his back and looked at the mysterious woman indifferently. He was very sensitive to killing intent. Haha, the mysterious woman took a deep look at Ji Yufei and suddenly burst into laughter. What are you laughing at? Ji Yufei was still indifferent. He was not in a hurry to make a move. He could feel the murderous intent from the masked woman. I am laughing at your arrogance. The mysterious woman stopped laughing. So what? Do you think you can leave this place alive? Ji Yufei still had a carefree look on his face, but his gaze towards the black-clothed masked woman was incomparably deep. He would not show any mercy. Compared to men, women were more terrifying. "You are right. If I want to leave, no one can stop me," the masked woman said with a smile. "Is that so?" Ji Fei could not be bothered to talk to the woman anymore. He exerted strength in his legs and shot towards the mysterious woman like an arrow. The void was filled with the sound of air exploding. Only a martial artist with an incomparably tyrannical martial body could withstand this kind of high-speed movement. Although the masked woman came prepared, she was still shocked by Ji Fei's explosive speed. She was only a few dozen feet away from Ji Fei. At such a distance, Ji Fei could reach her in an instant. However, the masked woman was like a piece of cotton in the wind. She floated along with the surging airflow. No matter how fast Ji Fei was, she was just moving with the wind. Like a phantom, like a speck of dust in the air, the masked woman in black became a weightless speck of dust in an instant. Ji Fei stretched out his right hand. Although he did not catch the masked woman, he pulled off the veil on her face. In a glimpse, Ji Fei saw half of the black-clothed masked woman's perfect face. The masked woman screamed and instantly turned into a shadow. She escaped directly. Her speed was not inferior to Ji Fei's. Ji Fei stared blankly at the veil in his hand. Who else wants to fight? Ji Fei snapped back to reality and swept his gaze across the crowd below the stage. His voice spread throughout the entire valley and into the ears of everyone present. What? The crowd was shocked and angry. However, even Wang Yong had been stomped to death by Ji Fei. Who would dare to fight him? Even the geniuses on the sky ranking chose to remain silent. As Ji Fei stomped Wang Yong to death, a life badge suddenly exploded in the Wang clan's ancestral ground. "Young master is dead." A furious roar came from the Wang clan's ancestral ground. The entire ancestral ground shook and a terrifying aura spread in all directions. However, the aura soon disappeared. However, the news of young master's death had spread. The entire Wang clan was in chaos. The clan leader even issued a reward. Anyone who could kill Ji Fei would be handsomely rewarded. Even the people of the Nantian Divine Palace were mobilized. After all, the Nanquan ancient city was the Nantian Divine Palace's territory. Chapter 4095. Ji Fei killed Wang Yong with a single stomp. Wang Yong was the son of the Wang family's current patriarch, the young master of the Wang family. The Wang family's patriarch, Wang Zhaotian, had cultivated his whole life and was an emperor realm existence. Wang Yong was his only son. Having a son at his old age, Wang Zhaotian naturally doted on Wang Yong. Moreover, Wang Yong had the 9-yang godly physique. This physique was absolutely heaven-defying, almost invincible within the same realm. Only a few people with the same heaven-defying physique were qualified to be his opponent. Even though Wang Yong was only a true god, with the 9-yang godly physique, he could fight against a divine monarch. Ji Fei, on the other hand, was merely a mid-level true god, yet he was able to defeat Wang Yong and kill him with a single stomp. Everyone was shocked. Even Nanling Yijian, who was ranked higher than Wang Yong on the sky list, was shocked. This guy must have an unimaginable physique. In the heavenly god world, physique was the foundation of cultivation. The stronger the physique, the further one could walk on the path of cultivation. Of course, cultivation techniques were also important. A heaven-defying cultivation technique could change a cultivator's physique. However, an innate divine physique was much stronger than an acquired physique. Only an innate divine physique was heaven-defying. The moment one was born, he or she would be far ahead of others. "You killed young master Wang Yong." Yang Yiqian's voice trembled. Ji Fei had pierced through the heavens. Even Wang Chen was petrified by the scene. Although he was a direct descendant of the Wang family, his status and identity were far from the patriarch's son. Wang Chen's father was only a small elder in the southern heaven divine palace. He could not enter the core of the Wang family and could only be assigned to the southern heaven divine palace. The envoy, Yang Yiqian, had previously offended Wang Chen, so he was sent by Wang Chen's father to a remote place to be an envoy. "Do you know what you have done?" Yang Yiqian was dumbfounded. He was Ji Yufei's envoy. He was the one who brought Ji Yufei to the southern Kuan ancient city. Now that Ji Yufei killed Wang Yong with a single stomp, he would be dead meat if the Wang family pursued the matter. I just killed someone who wanted to kill me. Ji Yufei shrugged and said disapprovingly. His principle was that if anyone wanted to kill him, he would kill that person. Wang Yong shouldn't have wanted to kill him. Since Wang Yong wanted to kill him, then sorry. Yang Yiqian didn't know what to say. As for the surrounding people, they all looked at Ji Yufei as if they were looking at a monster. This guy was really bold. He killed the Wang clan's young master and still acted like nothing happened. At this time, the surrounding people all hid far away, not daring to approach Ji Yufei. As for Yang Yiqian, he wanted to cry but had no tears. I'm dead because of you. Yang Yiqian felt a sense of despair at the thought of being hunted down by the Wang clan and the Nantian Divine Palace. Don't worry, I killed him. It has nothing to do with you. Ji Yufei came to Yang Yiqian's side and patted his shoulder. I just killed the legitimate son of a cultivation clan in the heavenly god realm. What's the big deal? Ji Yufei said unconcernedly. What? Yang Yiqian almost fainted when he heard this. What's the big deal? In his opinion, this was like piercing through the sky. One should know that the Wang clan was a cultivation clan that was second only to the 5 strongest forces in the southern divine region. Moreover, the Wang clan was allied with the Nantian Divine Palace. Since Ji Yufei killed the Wang clan's young master, Wang Zhaotian would never let Ji Yufei off. One should know that Wang Yong was the future of the Wang clan. If Wang Yong could grow up, the Wang clan might be able to prosper for another 100,000 years. They might even have the chance to replace the 5 giants and become the overlord of the southern divine region. But now, everything had become a bubble. It was hard to imagine what the Wang clan would do next. Roar. While everyone was still in shock, a long roar came from the horizon. The rolling sound waves shook the sky and the earth, scattering the clouds in the sky. A terrifying pressure that caused the souls of countless cultivators to tremble spread out in all directions. The Wang clan is here so soon. The cultivators in the southern Kuan ancient city were shocked. The southern Kuan city lord had just arrived at the life and death ring with his men and was about to take down Ji Yufei. Swoosh! A golden path stretched from the horizon, and a figure stepped on it, walking toward the southern Kuan ancient city step by step. This person was glowing with divine light, and there was a divine will behind his head, emitting powerful waves of divine power. This person was a middle-aged man in a green robe. He took a few steps and came to the sky above the life and death ring. He looked down at Ji Yufei like a god looking down at an ant. This is Yang Yiqian, who was next to Ji Yufei, collapsed to the ground. The pressure that erupted from the person in the sky was far too powerful. It made Yang Yiqian feel like his soul was about to collapse. He couldn't even muster up any thoughts of resistance. Flying in the sky, Divine King. In the heavenly divine realm, it was difficult for even the true gods to fly in the sky. Only those at the Divine King realm could do so. With a wave of his hand, Wang Yong's corpse on the life and death platform flew towards him. You killed Wang Yong? The middle-aged man kept Wang Yong's body, and his voice was cold and murderous. So what? This is the life and death ring. Once you are on the life and death ring, your life and death are up to fate. Does the Wang clan want to break the rules of the heavenly divine realm? Ji Yufei looked at the middle-aged man in the sky and said with a faint smile. The middle-aged god king's face immediately darkened when he heard that. Wang Yong died in the life and death ring. Even the Wang clan had to follow the rules. One should know that no one was allowed to cause trouble for the other party. This was the rule set by the rulers of the 5 divine realms. For countless years, no one had dared to defy it. Of course, since the Wang clan wanted to kill Ji Yufei, they had to do it in the dark. How dare you? How dare you commit murder in Nankuan ancient city? Take him down. At this moment, a loud shout rang out. A middle-aged man led a group of armored soldiers and rushed over. The dozens of soldiers immediately surrounded Ji Yufei and Yang Yiqian. The city lord is here. When the onlookers saw the middle-aged man, they were all shocked. The man was the city lord of southern Kuan city, Wang Zhaotian. Wang Chaotian was a member of the Wang clan. As the city lord of southern Kuan City, Wang Chaotian had to bear some responsibility for what happened to Wang Yong. Only by arresting the murderer, Ji Yufei, would he be able to live. One should know that even 10 city lords of southern Kuan City were no match for one Wang Yong. Why aren't you surrendering? Otherwise, I will kill you, City Lord Wang Chaotian said coldly. Even if he killed Wang Yong, the sect behind him would not say anything. The divine king in the sky did not say anything. Ha ha, Ji Yufei burst out laughing. The Wang clan was really shameless. What are you laughing at? City Lord Wang Chaotian stared at Ji Yufei and said. Trying to arrest me? Ji Yufei shook his head with a smile. This man refuses to be arrested. Life or death. Wang Chaotian waved his hand, and the soldiers immediately attacked Ji Yufei. Dozens of spears stabbed at Ji Yufei at the same time. As expected, shamelessness is invincible. Ji Yufei sighed. The Wang clan would never let him go. The city lord of southern Kuan ancient city was appointed by the South Heaven Divine Palace, so Wang Chaotian could say that he was not a member of the Wang clan. The reason why they arrested Ji Yufei was because Ji Yufei had killed someone in southern Kuan City. Even though all the cultivators in southern Kuan ancient city knew about Wang Chaotian's background, no one dared to say anything. With a flicker, Ji Yufei dashed out from the encirclement of the soldiers. The soldiers did not even manage to touch the corner of his robe. Kill. Wang Chaotian made his move. He took a step forward and threw a punch at Ji Yufei. A dark glow surged out from his fist, as if his fist had turned into metal. Ji Yufei harumphed coldly and threw out a punch of his own. Bam! Catcher! The sound of bones cracking was heard. Wang Chaotian let out a cry of agony and was knocked back. His entire right arm was bent in a strange way. Wang Chaotian broke out in cold sweat due to the pain. Everyone who witnessed the scene was shocked. Defeating the city lord of southern Kuan ancient city with a single punch. Even the divine king in the sky was startled. He did not expect Ji Yufei to cripple Wang Chaotian's right arm with a single punch. Wang Chaotian was not a weakling. As the city lord of southern Kuan ancient city, he naturally had his own strengths. His cultivation had also reached the divine king realm. Although he was only a low-level divine king, he was still a divine king. The fact that Ji Yufei defeated a divine king with a single punch shocked everyone. Even Nanling Yijian and Yuan Zi, who were watching from the pavilion in the distance, were shocked. This guy is definitely a monstrous existence, Nanling Yijian exclaimed. With that punch alone, he should be able to challenge the top 10 of the heaven roll, Yuan Zi murmured. That's hard to say. You should know that the top 10 of the heaven roll are at least at the divine king realm. The number 1 on the heaven roll, Ling Luo Chen, is a Shen king. Nanling Yijian shook his head and said. Not only Nanling Yijian, but the other experts on the heaven roll also did not think that Ji Yufei could defeat those peerless monsters in the top 10 of the heaven roll. Can't even withstand a single blow. Ji Yufei looked at Wang Chaotian and said calmly. Wang Chaotian endured the pain of his broken arm and glared at Ji Yufei. If looks could kill, Ji Yufei would have died many times over. I challenge you. Do you dare to accept? At this moment, the divine king in the sky could no longer sit still. Why should I accept your challenge? Ji Yufei said with a faint smile. Coward. The divine king said in disdain. TSK, you are a divine king and I am a true god. We are a realm apart, and you still dare to challenge me. Ji Yufei shook his head and said. Chapter 4096. The fact that Ji Yufei had defeated a divine king with a single punch shocked the divine king of the Wang family. This kind of battle prowess was too heaven-defying. One had to know that Ji Yufei was only a mid-level true god. Only the god-sons and goddesses of the great sects and clans that had existed for countless years and possessed heaven-defying divine bodies could challenge a divine king. Could this guy be a god-son of some superforce? The cultivators in the southern Kuan ancient city were inexplicably shocked. Only young Yiqian knew about Ji Yufei's background. This guy was not a god-son of some superforce. This guy had just ascended to the heavenly realm. If word of this got out, It would probably shake the entire cultivation world of the southern divine region. At this time, the divine king of the Wang family in the sky let out a long, angry roar and directly soared into the sky, disappearing into the depths of the firmament. He could not openly kill Ji Yufei, so he could only retreat. As soon as the divine king of the Wang family left, the cultivators in the entire southern Kuan ancient city heaved a sigh of relief. One had to know that the pressure of the divine king was too strong and terrifying, almost suffocating them. However, even though the divine king of the Wang family had retreated, the city lord of the southern Kuan ancient city, Wang Chaotian, did not. At this time, a dozen incomparably powerful auras rapidly approached from the direction of the city lord's mansion. Wang Chaotian endured the pain and directly connected the broken bones in his arm. Soon, the flesh, muscles, and bones at the injured area rapidly grew back, and the wound healed quickly. Wang Chaotian took out a divine pill and swallowed it. In the next moment, a violent and powerful wave of divine power immediately erupted from his body, and a faint divine will appeared behind his head. The formation of a divine wheel was the sign of a mid-level god king. "Little guy, you even dared to hit me. You are really lawless. I will not let you go today." Wang Chaotian stared at Ji Yufei and said fiercely. At this time, the surrounding figures flickered, and a total of 12 experts descended from the sky, surrounding Ji Yufei and Yang Yiqian. "If you want to punish someone, you can always find a pretext. Come, let me see what you have to dare to catch me." Ji Yufei swept a cold glance at these people. Roar. The 12 experts roared at the same time. In the next moment, their auras merged into one, and an incomparably powerful force rapidly condensed. A joint attack formation? Seeing this, Ji Yufei couldn't help but feel a little surprised. 12 great perfection true gods formed a battle formation, giving him the feeling that he was facing an army of thousands. With the combined strength of 12 late true gods, they could definitely fight against a godly king. This was Wang Chaotian's trump card, and also his greatest trump card. "Kill him for me," Wang Chaotian ordered. In the next moment, the battle formation of the 12 people was activated. The white-haired old man, who was the leader, directly threw a punch at Ji Yufei. Roar. The powerful fist force condensed into a ferocious tiger that pounced towards Ji Yufei. The power of the Tiger King's pounce was earth-shattering. However, in the face of this punch, Ji Yufei also punched out. There was nothing on his fist, and it looked like a simple punch. However, to everyone's disbelief, the ferocious tiger that pounced towards Ji Yufei directly collapsed and dissipated into the void. Ji Yufei's body swayed a little, but his feet did not move. The white-haired old man seemed to have suffered a heavy blow, and he retreated 4 to 5 steps before stopping. Boom! In the next moment, an even stronger wave of energy erupted from the white-haired old man's body. He was like a peerless godly king that had descended to the world, and his body was covered in divine light. Violent energy waves spread out, and the surrounding sand and pebbles were sent flying. The cultivators from the southern Kuan ancient city who were watching the battle quickly retreated. The consequences of being caught in a battle of this level were unimaginable. If it was light, it would result in serious injuries, and if it was heavy, it would result in death. At this time, Ji Yufei reached out and grabbed Yang Yiqian, who was standing beside him, and threw him out of the 12-man battle formation. Compete. City Lord Wang Chaotian sneered and leaped into the 12-man battle formation. In the next moment, the power of the 12 upper realm true gods gathered towards him. Boom! A rumbling sound came from Wang Chaotian's body, and as if he had broken some kind of shackle, the divine will behind his head shone brightly. His battle strength was directly raised to the mid-level God King realm. "Ha ha, little brat, die." Wang Chaotian stretched out his hand and directly grabbed at Ji Yufei. 5 incomparably sharp rays of divine light rushed out from Wang Chaotian's 5 fingers, piercing through the void and piercing towards Ji Yufei in an instant. Everyone thought that Ji Yufei would be directly pierced by the 5 rays of divine light. However, when the 5 rays of divine light that were more powerful than the divine spear pierced Ji Yufei, they instantly disappeared. Yes, disappeared. How is this possible? South Kuan City Lord Wang Chaotian was dumbfounded. This was an attack that contained the power of 12 upper realm true gods. Although it looked like a casual attack, it was actually a killing move. One had to know that Jiyu Fei was surrounded by the power of the 12 upper realm true gods, and he had no way to escape. Wang Chaotian did not expect that Jiyu Fei's eternal real bone could devour all kinds of energy. Attacking his eternal real bone was equivalent to sending energy to Jiyu Fei. Not to mention a god king, even if a god emperor attacked Jiyu Fei's eternal real bone, the result would be the same. As long as the eternal real bone was present, Jiyu Fei would not die. Boom! At this time, Jiyu Fei punched again. His fists moved according to a certain trajectory, and with one punch, the 12 upper realm true gods were sent flying. Bam! 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 A series of explosions could be heard, and the 12 great perfection true gods that were sent flying by Jiyu Fei's punch exploded in the air. They turned into 12 clouds of blood mist and dissipated into the void. Seeing this scene, everyone's eyeballs almost dropped to the ground. How? How is this possible? Wang Chaotian was also stunned. The 12 upper realm true gods formation was broken by this guy with one punch. Jiyu Fei's fist did not stop. Wang Chaotian, on the other hand, looked as if he had been cursed. He could only watch as Jiyu Fei's fist came smashing towards his chest and smashed into it. Bam! Catcher! A series of bone-cracking sounds could be heard from Wang Chaotian's body. Wang Chaotian stared at Jiyu Fei in shock, and he wanted to say something, but in the next moment. Bam! Wang Chaotian's body exploded, and even the divine weapons on his body were not spared as they were all shattered into pieces. Although Jiyu Fei's punch did not seem to contain any chi of fire, it contained a terrifying power that could destroy everything in its path. Under his fist, everything was shattered. At this moment, Jiyu Fei finally threw out a punch that belonged to him. This punch can destroy everything. Let's call it annihilation. Jiyu Fei was overjoyed. He had finally created the first move of the Eternal Fist, Annihilation. However, this was only a prototype, and he still needed to practice it carefully to make sure that there were no flaws. Since ancient times, all great skills, including the divine powers and secret arts created by the extreme Tao Supremes, had flaws. The punch that Jiyu Fei threw out just now also had a flaw, but there was no one in the entire southern Kuan ancient city who could see through it and break it. Even the experts on the heaven list could not see through it. Jiyu Fei's punch was no longer at the extreme Tao level, but at the eternal realm. Only those in the eternal realm could see through Jiyu Fei's punch. The city lord is dead. At this time, the surroundings were silent, and everyone looked at Jiyu Fei in horror. They did not think much of it when he defeated the Divine King with a single punch, but now, Jiyu Fei actually killed the Divine King with a single punch. This was different. Yang Yiqian, the guide, did not know what words to use to describe his current mood. What kind of background did this guy who ascended from the lower realm have? How could he be so strong and so decisive? He was simply a god of death. Let's go. Jiyu Fei came to Yang Yiqian's side, directly grabbed him, and dragged him away. They left the place where the life and death ring was. At this time, only then did Yang Yiqian wake up from the shock. Jiyu Fei did not know much about the heavenly god realm, so it was much more convenient to bring Yang Yiqian along. They did not directly leave the southern Kuan ancient city, but found a small inn to stay in. Jiyu Fei knew that the divine king of the Wang family was still nearby. As long as he left the southern Kuan ancient city, the divine king of the Wang family would definitely attack him. If they were in the city, the divine king would have some scruples. After that, Jiyu Fei and Yang Yiqian seemed to have disappeared from the southern Kuan ancient city. The news of Jiyu Fei trampling Wang Yong to death and punching the southern Kuan city lord Wang Chaotian to death quickly spread, causing a stir in the entire southern divine region. That brother is really too awesome. I can't help but admire him. How many years has it been? Is there finally another god of death? Everyone was talking about this matter, but the people of the Wang family and the southern heaven divine palace could not sit still. An elder of the Wang family with a cultivation of Shun King level came out of seclusion and directly left the Wang family's ancestral land to hunt down Jiyu Fei. and a deputy palace master of the Southern Heaven Divine Palace also left the Southern Heaven Divine Palace. The people of the Wang family and the Southern Heaven Divine Palace wanted to kill Jiyu Fei. If it was anyone else, they would have already lost all hope, but unfortunately, the enemy that the Wang family and the Southern Heaven Divine Palace had to face this time was Jiyu Fei. Jiyu Fei was once an invincible existence in the eternal realm. In his eyes, the Wang family and the Southern Heaven Divine Palace were like ants, and he did not take them seriously at all. The news that Jiyu Fei was hiding in the southern Kuan ancient city somehow spread, so the experts from all sides turned their attention to the southern Kuan ancient city. Roar. At this time, a roar came from the depths of the southern Kuan mountain range. In a valley, a wild beast with monstrous divine flames burst out from its body roared to the sky. Chapter 4097. The news of a divine beast appearing in the Nankuan mountain range had already spread throughout the entire southern divine region, and even experts from other divine regions were constantly entering the southern divine region. Divine beasts were incomparably powerful existences. Not every beast could become a divine beast, and any divine beast could fight a divine king. If a divine beast king were to appear, the entire southern divine region would fall into a state of panic. Divine beasts possessed a strong physique and strength, as well as innate divine abilities. They were innately stronger than humans. Among all living beings in the world, the human race's physique was not the strongest. A lion or a tiger could bite the strongest mortal to death, and only cultivators could hunt these ferocious beasts. There was no doubt that a divine beast was powerful. Roar. In the depths of the southern Kuan mountain range, a terrifying roar came from a valley. The entire valley was destroyed by the divine fire dragon, and everything in the valley was burned to ashes. This evil beast, a powerful figure, loomed over the valley. In the valley, in the midst of an endless sea of fire, a divine beast stood in the air, constantly roaring at the sky. Its voice shook the 9 heavens, and even the clouds in the sky were dispersed by the terrifying sound waves. Even in the Nankuan ancient city, the roar of the divine beast could be heard clearly. Although the southern Kuan ancient city was not big, there were many people living in the city and the area around it. There were at least 100,000 people living near the ancient city. The city was the stronghold of the major forces, and it was also a place where only the powerful were qualified to live. Outside the Nankuan ancient city, there were countless villages, and mountain strongholds. Most of these people who relied on the mountains for a living were hunters who hunted all kinds of beasts for a living. If the divine beast were to rush to the Nankuan ancient city, then many people would die. At this time, Jiyu Fei and Yang Iqian were hiding in the Nankuan ancient city. Due to the appearance of the divine beast, the number of outsiders in the Nankuan ancient city had increased greatly. Even the Nantian Divine Palace and the Wang family couldn't find Jiyu Fei and the others in a short time. Have you heard that there is an extraordinary guy in the Nankuan ancient city? You mean the person who killed the Wang family's young master Wang Yong a few days ago? That guy is really reckless. How can the Wang family let him go after killing the Wang family's young master? In a tea house in the southern Kuan ancient city, a few cultivators in azure robes were chatting. In a corner of the tea house, 2 young men sat facing each other. You're already famous. A green-robed young man looked at the black-robed young man and said. The black-clothed youth didn't say anything, only drinking a mouthful of that dark green immortal tea. This tea was like jade wine, a bit thick, containing a wave of spiritual energy. If cultivators could drink this tea often, it would be very beneficial to their cultivation. These 2 young men were Jiyu Fei and Yang Iqian. This kind of tea had no effect on Jiyu Fei. This tea is pretty good. I'll treat you to some enlightenment tea some other day. Jiyu Fei said. Enlightenment tea? When Yang Iqian heard this, he didn't believe it. One should know that the enlightenment tea was something that only existed in legends. Drinking a cup would allow a cultivator to comprehend the Tao and improve their cultivation greatly. Forget it. Yang Iqian said disapprovingly. Jiyu Fei did not say anything else. At that moment, a few cultivators in azure robes suddenly walked up the stairs. Their collars were embroidered with a black dragon. Those are the disciples of the South Heaven Divine Palace. Yang Iqian couldn't help but feel nervous when he saw them. He used to be a disciple of the South Heaven Divine Palace, but his name had been removed from the South Heaven Divine Palace. Ji Yufei didn't even raise his head. He wouldn't be afraid even if the elders of the South Heaven Divine Palace were here, let alone the disciples of the South Heaven Divine Palace. Even though he wasn't afraid, it didn't mean that Yang Iqian wasn't. Even though Yang Iqian had changed his appearance with a martial art, he was still a little nervous. The Nantian Divine Palace's Black Dragon disciples circled around the area, as if they had not discovered anything. Just as they were about to turn around and leave, the leading Black Dragon disciple suddenly looked at Ji Yufei and Yang Iqian, who were in the corner. The leader of the Black Dragon walked up to Ji Yufei and the others. "You two don't look familiar. Where are you from, and what are you doing here in the southern Kuan ancient city?" The leader of the Black Dragon stared at Ji Yufei and said, "Humph. What does it have to do with you where I'm from?" Ji Yufei said coldly, "Be honest, or I'll kill you." An icy murderous intent immediately burst out from the leader of the Black Dragon's body. When the cultivators in the tea house saw this scene, they were all inexplicably shocked and immediately fled. "Kill you?" Ji Yufei raised his head and said with a faint smile. "Humph." The leader of the Black Dragon was too lazy to waste any more time. He immediately slammed his palm at Ji Yufei. A powerful god force burst out from his palm and instantly shrouded Ji Yufei. However, Ji Yufei simply waved his hand and the leader of the Black Dragon was sent flying. He crashed through the wall and fell onto the street outside. A series of exclamations could be heard from the street. The remaining disciples of the South Heaven Divine Palace were shocked and enraged seeing this. The rest of the cultivators in the tea house were dumbfounded too. How dare this guy beat up a disciple of the South Heaven Divine Palace? The South Heaven Divine Palace and the Wang clan were the rulers of this region. Causing trouble in their territory was no different than courting death. Everyone stared at Ji Yufei and the others as if they were looking at monsters. A disciple of the South Heaven Divine Palace crushed a jade talisman. The next moment, a divine ray soared into the sky and disappeared into the horizon. Ji Yufei furrowed his brows when he saw this. "Crap, they're calling for reinforcements." Yang Iqian exclaimed. "What's there to be afraid of? It's best if all of them come," Ji Yufei said while sipping his tea. "All of them?" Yang Iqian was taken aback. Roar. At that instant, an angry roar came from outside the tea house. The leader of the Black Dragon that was sent flying by Ji Yufei charged into the tea house. "You deserve to die." The leader of the Black Dragon spat out a flying sword from his mouth. The flying sword instantly turned into a brilliant sword ray and flew toward Ji Yufei. A chilling sword chi spread out, causing the surrounding temperature to drop rapidly due to the impact of the sword chi. Everyone in the tea house could feel the chill penetrating their bodies. Just when everyone thought that Ji Yufei would be sliced in half by the sword ray, a shocking scene took place. Ji Yufei casually grabbed with his right hand and grabbed the sharp sword light that was coming at him. What? The Black Dragon leader's shock was no small matter. The rest of the cultivators in the tea house stared at the scene in disbelief. Chapter 4098. In a tea house in Nankuan ancient city, Ji Yufei grabbed the flying sword of a Black Dragon disciple from the Nantian Divine Palace. This scene shocked everyone in the tea house. Ji Yufei was able to ignore the sharpness of the Black Dragon disciple's flying sword. Moreover, the flying sword that could cut through jade and gold couldn't even cut the skin on his hand. Ji Yufei's martial body tempered by eternal energy was extremely powerful. Even an even more powerful divine artifact would not be able to injure him. Ji Yufei exerted force in his right hand, and with a loud crack, the flying sword in his hand was crushed. Everyone in the tea house watched this scene, and their eyeballs almost fell to the ground. This guy actually crushed a divine weapon with his bare hands. How was this possible? Could it be that his hands were even stronger than the divine weapon? Ji Yufei loosened his right hand, and the fragments of the divine weapon in his hand fell to the ground. The fragments made a crisp sound when they hit the floor. Could this guy be that person? Someone suddenly exclaimed. At this moment, Yang Iqian's expression changed drastically. The Black Dragon leader's divine sword was destroyed, and he suffered a great impact. His expression immediately became weary, as if all his strength had been sucked out. With his natal sword destroyed, the Black Dragon leader had lost half of his cultivation. "Are you the person who killed young Master Wang Yong?" the Black Dragon leader said loudly. The Black Dragon disciples beside him were shocked when they heard this. They were really unlucky to have encountered this killer. This was a ruthless person who even dared to kill Wang Yong. At this moment, Ji Yufei slowly stood up. He had been hiding here and there for the past few days, and it was too frustrating. Brother Ji Yu, Yang Yiqian was very anxious. One must know that the divine king of the Wang family was still nearby. If they provoked that divine king, they were dead meat. "You want to kill me?" Ji Yufei looked at the Black Dragon leader opposite him with a faint smile. The Black Dragon leader and the other Black Dragon disciples stared at Ji Yufei nervously, and they didn't say a word. Just at this moment, a powerful aura surged over from afar. A powerful pressure descended on everyone's heads, causing them to turn pale with fright. Just now, a Black Dragon disciple from the Southern Heaven Divine Palace crushed a jade talisman, signaling the arrival of the experts from the Wang family. "Haha, you're dead." One of the Black Dragon disciples laughed heartily. Whoosh! Right at this moment, a cold light flashed, and then the disciple from the Black Dragon sect who was laughing was rendered speechless. In the next moment, blood appeared, and a head flew into the air. "You're the one who's dead." Ji Yufei looked indifferently at the Black Dragon disciple who had been decapitated. When the other Black Dragon disciples saw this, they hurriedly retreated. At this moment, a figure walked in from outside the tea house. It was a handsome old man dressed in black. As soon as the old man stepped into the tea house, the entire tea house suddenly shook. "It really is you, haha." The old man didn't even look at the Black Dragon disciples from the Southern Heaven Divine Palace. As soon as he walked in, his gaze fell on Ji Yufei. You can wear out iron shoes in fruitless search, only to find what you're looking for without even looking for it. Capturing you and presenting you to the Patriarch is definitely a great merit, the elder from the Southern Heaven Divine Palace said with a laugh. "Is that so? Then you need to have the ability to do so," Ji Yufei said with a smile. "Don't think that you're invincible just because you killed Wang Yong," the old man in black said coldly. "If you want to fight, then hurry up." "What's with all the nonsense?" Ji Yufei said impatiently. The old man in black was instantly enraged. With a wave of his sleeve, a powerful devouring force immediately rushed out from his sleeve and instantly enveloped Ji Yufei. Ji Yufei's body involuntarily flew towards the black-clothed old man's sleeve. This was the heaven and earth sleeve mystique. Although it wasn't a powerful mystique, a godly monarch could still suck a mountain into it. Ji Yufei didn't resist and was directly sucked into the sleeve of the old man in black. That's all. The city lord of the Nankuan ancient city is really useless. The old man in black let out a long sigh and shook his head. He walked out of the tea house without even looking at Yang Yiqian. He soared into the sky and left the Nankuan ancient city. The elder of the Southern Heaven Divine Palace was in a hurry to claim his reward. Yang Yiqian was stunned. When he came to his senses, Ji Yufei and the old man in black had already disappeared. He quickly rushed out of the tea house and disappeared into the crowd on the street. When the leader of the Black Dragons came to his senses, Yang Yiqian had already disappeared. "Damn it, we must find that guy even if we have to dig 3 feet into the ground." The leader of the Black Dragons roared. "Yes." The disciples of the Black Dragons quickly obeyed and rushed out. At this time, in the sky 100 miles away from the Southern Kuan ancient city, the black-robed old man who had captured Ji Yufei with the sleeve universe was flying in the air on a flying sword when he suddenly stumbled and almost fell from the sky. The sleeve on his right hand suddenly exploded, and a figure directly rushed out from it and fell directly to the mountain below. Boom! Like a meteorite falling from the sky, Ji Yufei directly smashed a mountain top and rolled at the foot of the mountain. Damn it! He was directly buried under the rocks that rolled down from the mountain. He directly shook off the rocks that were crushing him and walked out. However, at this moment, a huge hand fell from the sky. Boom! He was directly slapped into the ground, dust flew everywhere, and a huge palm print appeared on the ground. But soon, Jiu Fei walked out of the ground again. What, in the sky? The old man in black could not help but be shocked and angry when he saw this. Even a peak true god would not be able to withstand his palm, let alone a mid-level true god. But this guy was only a mid-level true god, and he actually did not die from his palm strike. This made the old man in black unable to believe it. Kill. The old man in black could not stop himself from killing. Clang. With a wave of his right hand, an extremely sharp sword ray directly rushed out from his hand and strangled Jiu Fei below. The sword ray shot out thousands of feet, and everywhere it passed, the void was directly cut apart, leaving a thin black crack in the space. At this time, Jiu Fei, who was on the ground, suddenly raised his head and stretched out his right hand, directly grabbing at the sword ray that was coming towards him. I'll break your arm first. The old man in black sneered, and in the next moment, his sword ray was like a spirit snake, coiling around Jiu Fei's right arm. The old man in black let out a sinister laugh, and the sword ray that coiled around Jiu Fei's arm suddenly tightened, and Jiu Fei's right sleeve was instantly shredded into pieces. However, in the next moment, the smile on the old man's face disappeared. Although his sword ray was tightly coiling around Jiu Fei's arm, it could not break through Jiu Fei's flesh. The elder of Nantian Divine Palace, Yuan Outsong, was extremely depressed. He had met a guy who could not be killed. Although this guy was only a mid-level true god, he had an extremely powerful divine body. This kind of divine body was something that even Yuan Outsong had never seen before. Whether it was using heavy techniques to attack this guy, or using flying swords to slash this guy, it was all useless. This guy just could not be injured, and could not die. How is this possible? Yuan Outsong could not do anything to Jiu Fei at all. He originally wanted to cut off one of Jiu Fei's arms, but the flying swords that he had refined for tens of thousands of years could not even cut through the skin on Jiu Fei's arm. I say, you should save your strength. Jiu Fei once again walked out of the deep pit in the ground, and looked at the black-robed old man Yuan Outsong in the sky with a faint smile on his face. Yuan Outsong's face twitched a few times. Does this guy really have an immortal divine body? In the heavenly god world, there were all kinds of ancient legends. One of them was about the immortal divine body. It was said that in the ancient times, an immortal divine body had appeared in the heavenly god world. This kind of divine body could not be buried by heaven and earth, and was indestructible. Even if one wanted to die, they could not. In the end, the immortal divine body disappeared. No one knew where he went, and no one knew what happened. In short, the immortal divine body never appeared in the heavenly god world again. Could it be that after so many years, the immortal divine body appeared again? Thinking of this, Yuan Outsong's eyes lit up as he stared at Jiu Fei. If he could hide from this immortal divine body, wouldn't he be indestructible? Indestructible, eternal life in the heavens and earth, this was something that countless cultivators pursued for their whole lives. Yuan Outsong naturally would not let go of this opportunity. He suddenly smiled strangely, and then stretched out his right hand to grab Jiu Fei who was on the ground. Yuan Outsong knew that although Jiu Fei could not be killed, he could capture this guy. In this way, his plan could be carried out. At this time, Yuan Outsong had already given up on the idea of offering Jiu Fei to the Wang family's patriarch, Wang Zhaotian. He grabbed Jiu Fei, and then directly flew to his cave residence. Jiu Fei wanted to see what this guy wanted to do, so he did not make a move and let this guy bring him to his cave residence. This cave residence was located in the Nanquan mountain range. After entering the cave residence, Yuan Outsong directly tied Jiu Fei to a pillar, and then began to prepare to seize Jiu Fei's divine body. The immortal divine body was much more tempting than any immortal elixir or divine medicine. As long as Yuan Outsong could seize Jiu Fei's divine body, he would not have to worry about dying. More than 2 hours later, Yuan Outsong began to sit in front of the pillar, and began to circulate his mysterious art. In the next moment, his aura became monstrous, and his entire temperament changed. Boom! A black whirlpool appeared between his eyebrows, and in the middle of the whirlpool, a figure was sitting cross-legged. It was a miniature version of Yuan Outsong. Swoosh! The miniature version of Yuan Outsang directly walked out of the divine palace between his eyebrows, and then rushed towards Ji Yufei, wanting to directly enter Ji Yufei's divine palace. However, when the miniature version of Yuan Outsang collided with Ji Yufei's eyebrows, it almost shattered his own primordial spirit, which scared him out of his wits. Yuan Outsang's primordial spirit was actually unable to enter Ji Yufei's divine palace. This, Yuan Outsang panicked. He only had 2 hours, and if he passed this time, he would not be able to continue. With his cultivation, he could only hold on for 2 hours. Bang! 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 Yuan Outsang's primordial spirit continuously collided with Ji Yufei's eyebrows, and a dull sound was produced. However, all of this was futile. Yuan Outsang's primordial spirit could not enter Ji Yufei's body at all, which meant that he had failed. He never thought that Ji Yufei would have a protective force on his body. Damn it! Yuan Outsang was very unwilling, and he had no choice but to withdraw his primordial spirit. However, at the moment when his primordial spirit entered the divine palace between his eyebrows, Ji Yufei roared in anger and exerted force, and the iron chains that were wrapped around his arms immediately broke. Ji Yufei directly landed on the ground, and then with a push of his feet, he suddenly pounced towards Yuan Outsang. What? Seeing this, Yuan Outsang was instantly shocked. At this time, his primordial spirit had just returned, and it was difficult for him to use his killer move, so he could only keep retreating. However, Ji Yufei's movement speed was extremely fast, and he instantly caught up with Yuan Outsang. His right hand stretched out, and directly grabbed Yuan Outsang's arm. Roar! Before Yuan Outsang could react, Ji Yufei suddenly exerted force, and with a catcher sound, Yuan Outsang's entire right arm was torn off. Yuan Outsang let out a blood-curdling scream, and he almost fainted from the pain. Ji Yufei did not show any mercy, and the 5 fingers of his right hand directly grabbed Yuan Outsang's head. In the next moment, Yuan Outsang's head was directly crushed by him, and a primordial spirit flew out. Little guy, you destroyed my divine body, I want your life. Yuan Outsang's primordial spirit was extremely excited. This was really a case of going for wool and coming home shorn. Originally, he wanted to seize Ji Yufei's indestructible divine body, but who would have thought that he would not be able to seize the indestructible divine body, and instead, Ji Yufei would destroy his own divine body. Do you have the ability? Ji Yufei said disapprovingly. Damn it! Yuan Outsang was so angry that he almost went crazy, and he directly activated the killing formation in the cave. Rumble, a terrifying destructive force suddenly erupted, and the entire cave shook, and the cave continued to crack and collapse. You want to die together with me? Ji Yufei still looked calm, and he was very confident in his divine body. Although his martial body was still a distance away from the eternal indestructible body, there was no existence in the heavenly god realm that could threaten his martial body. Even if a god emperor made a move, he would not be able to destroy his martial body. Yuan Outsang went crazy, and the power of his primordial spirit erupted, activating the killing formation in the cave, and the entire cave was collapsing. On top of Ji Yufei's head, a huge rock fell down, and directly smashed towards him. Boom! Ji Yufei punched upwards, and a violent fist force erupted, and directly smashed the huge rock into pieces. In the next moment, a vertical purple mark appeared on Ji Yufei's forehead. Swish! A ray of purple light directly shot out from the vertical mark, and directly slashed Yuan Outsang's primordial spirit in the sky. Yuan Outsang's primordial spirit stared at Ji Yufei, and revealed an expression of disbelief. In the next moment, his primordial spirit dimmed, and finally dissipated in the void. An elder of the Nantian Divine Palace of a generation was killed just like that, and nothing was left behind. At this moment, the cave collapsed, and Ji Yufei directly swung his fist, breaking through the layers of soil, and directly came out of the ground. As soon as he came out, he saw endless divine fire descending from the sky. In the next moment, he was directly immersed in the endless sea of fire. Chapter 4099. The Nantian Divine Palace's elder, Yuan Outsang, wanted to take Ji Yufei's eternal indestructible physique, but Ji Yufei killed him in his own abode instead. Yuan Outsang's abode was very secretive. It was the place where he cultivated evil arts, so almost no one knew about it. No one knew that Ji Yufei had killed Yuan Outsang for the time being. When Ji Yufei came out from Yuan Outsang's abode, he happened to see the divine beast in the Nanquan mountain range fighting against the human race's experts. Rumble, boundless divine fire covered a radius of several thousand miles, causing the void to distort and be annihilated. Fire-shaped divine runes could be vaguely seen in the divine fire. Ji Yufei was bathed in the divine fire, but he was completely unharmed. His martial body was extremely powerful. The divine fire of a divine beast might be powerful, but even a godly monarch would have to retreat. However, the divine fire that could peel off a layer of skin from a godly monarch couldn't even burn a hair on Ji Yufei's body. What a pure divine fire! Ji Yufei couldn't help but nod. There was a reason why this divine beast could stir the clouds in all directions. If a divine beast like this could be subdued, then it would be a great help to any great sect or clan. However, subduing this divine beast was not an easy task. Human, you're not afraid of my divine fire? At this moment, a voice resounded in Ji Yufei's mind. TCH, what's so great about that? It's just the solar true fire, and it's only at the 3 solar realm. If you cultivate to the 10 solar realm, I might have some reservations. Ji Yufei said disapprovingly. 10 solar realm? When the divine beast in the sea of fire heard Ji Yufei's words, it staggered and almost fell from the sky. The sea of fire rumbled and a huge beast appeared. The divine beast had a dragon's head and antlers, and its body was covered with crimson scales. It was a fire Qilin. This, when Ji Yufei saw it, he thought that it was the fire Qilin that he had subdued in the human world. He used to have a fire Qilin as his mount, but later, the fire Qilin followed Old Tortoise, the son of the Grand Emperor, just like Xiaoqing. The fire Qilin had even become Old Tortoise's divine general Qilin, and its cultivation was extremely powerful. Xiaoqing, on the other hand, was Ji Yufei's brother. Before Ji Yufei attained the Tao, he had always been by Ji Yufei's side. They grew up together, fought against the heavens and earth, and fought against countless experts. Right now, Xiaoqing was probably already at the level of a demon ancestor. Thinking of Xiaoqing, Old Tortoise, and the rest, Ji Yufei really wanted to return to the human world and heavenly realm to take a look. However, the human world and heavenly realm both had the power of heavenly punishment. The power of the heavenly punishment could kill an extreme Tao supremacy. However, Ji Yufei already knew the secret of the power of heavenly punishment. The power of heavenly punishment seemed to only be able to cover a limited area of the world, and not the entire universe. At least, the heavenly realm did not have the power of heavenly punishment. You're in luck today, and I'm in a good mood now. I'll make you my mount, Ji Yufei said to the fire Qilin with a smile. What did you say? The fire Qilin thought it had heard it wrong. You're asking me to be your mount? Human, are you trying to get yourself killed? The fire Qilin said proudly. As a godly beast, it had the right to be arrogant. Everyone knew that the fire Qilin was no ordinary godly beast. It was comparable to the black tortoise, blue dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and other formidable godly beasts. However, it was obvious that the fire Qilin had yet to become a godly beast emperor, as it had yet to reach adulthood. An adult fire Qilin was not something that a godly emperor could afford to offend. A single breath from an adult fire Qilin was strong enough to burn an entire galaxy. This is your chance to soar into the sky, don't make a mistake. Ji Yufei said. Make a mistake? The fire Qilin burst out laughing. I say, human, do you think you're the South Heaven God Emperor? Even the South Heaven God Emperor wouldn't dare to ask me to be his mount. The fire Qilin said disdainfully. How could the South Heaven God Emperor be compared to me? To be able to become my mount is a blessing that you have cultivated for several lifetimes. Ji Yufei said. He was right. He was once an undefeatable expert in the eternal realm. A mere South Heaven God Emperor was like an ant in his eyes. What? The fire Qilin was left speechless. This guy was too arrogant. Human, I'm in a bad mood today. You're in trouble. The fire Qilin said with a hollow laugh. Sigh. Ji Yufei shook his head. Still pretending? Go to hell. The fire Qilin slapped at Jiyu Fei's head with its claw. The fire Qilin had no idea what kind of existence it was facing. In its eyes, Jiyu Fei was only a mere human that it could kill with a single slap. Bang! At that instant, a giant hand slashed the divine flames apart and grabbed at the fire Qilin. The great power of a god king erupted from the hand that descended from the sky, directly shaking up the surroundings. Damn it! The fire Qilin was infuriated. Its claw was already above Jiyu Fei's head, but it had no choice but to withdraw it to resist the giant hand. Bang! The beast claw and the huge hand collided, and a dull sound like thunder erupted. The insufferably arrogant fire Qilin was knocked back. Roar! The divine beast's roar shook the heavens and earth. Boundless divine flames burned the sky and the void. The surrounding mountain ridges were all turned to dust under the scorching heat of the divine flames. Beast, submit to me, or I'll kill you with a single slap. A voice came down from the sky. Jiyu Fei opened his eyes and saw an extremely powerful figure standing high in the sky. It was an existence that was much stronger than the Wang family's divine king. Back then, Jiyu Fei had trampled the Wang family's young master Wang Yong to death on the life and death platform, provoking a Wang family's divine king. However, due to the divine realm's rules, the Wang family's divine king did not dare to attack Jiyu Fei openly. This allowed Jiyu Fei to be safe for the time being. The Wang family's divine king would not let Jiyu Fei off so easily. But now that the divine beast had appeared, even the Wang family's divine king would not be able to find him easily. Roar! The fire Qilin roared at the sky. The entire heaven and earth shook as a terrifying pressure caused the world to lose its color. Are you still putting up a pointless struggle? The figure in the sky sneered. Then, the figure formed a seal with both hands and pressed down on the sea of fire below. The moment the seal was formed, an endless amount of god power spread out. The entire void was sealed up as though it had solidified. What? The fire Qilin was sealed in the void, motionless. Boom! An extremely powerful wave of divine power erupted from the fire Qilin's body. Divine runes appeared on the fire Qilin's body, trying to break free from the sealing power. However, at this moment, the sound of metal clashing came from the sky. Then, divine chains descended from the sky and wrapped around the fire Qilin's body. Chapter 4100. Life is really lonely. Why doesn't anyone understand me? Jiyu Fei was completely ignored by the fire Qilin. One must know that back in the ancestral god realm, there were countless people who fought to be his servant and mount. Now, he was ignored by a fire Qilin. Jiyu Fei was very unhappy. When he saw the fire Qilin being wrapped up by the divine king in the sky, he did not make a move. Instead, he watched the show from the side. Clang! The divine chains that descended from the sky tightened, causing the fire Qilin to roar and struggle. However, it was all in vain. The divine king in the sky was very strong, much stronger than the divine king from the Wang family. The Nankuan ancient city lord, who was killed by Jiyu Fei, was not even qualified to carry the shoes of the divine king. They were all god monarchs, but the gap between god monarchs was huge. It was like heaven and earth. Some divine kings were so strong that they could challenge the Shen king. They were almost invincible among their peers, but some divine kings could not even defeat a peak true god with a heaven-defying divine body. In the heavenly divine realm, where everything depended on strength, only the strong could be respected by others. At this time, there seemed to be no more suspense. The fire Qilin was already captured by the divine king. It seemed impossible for it to turn the tables. At this moment, an immortal sword light slashed down from the sky, severing all the divine chains wrapped around the fire Qilin's body. Roar! The fire Qilin roared and shook its body. The divine chains around it were immediately shattered. Bu Kong, what do you mean by this? The divine king in the sky roared. What do I mean? Didn't you see? A figure charged over from afar. It was a young man in white. He radiated with powerful pulses of sword chi at the level of god kings. You want to fight with me for this divine beast? The divine king said coldly. Yang Lingxiao, I have wanted to fight with you for a long time. The white-robed sword god king, Bu Kong, arrived in front of the divine king. At this time, the fire Qilin spat out a mouthful of divine fire at the two people in the sky. Boom! An almost transparent divine fire suddenly erupted and swept up high into the sky. The void between heaven and earth was silently annihilated. When Jiyu Fei saw this scene, his pupils involuntarily contracted. The true sun fire that the fire Qilin spat out was already close to the power of 4 suns. Evil creature, don't be presumptuous. The white-robed sword god king, Bu Kong, let out a furious roar and pointed a finger forward. An extremely sharp sword ray immediately shot out from the tip of his finger, tearing through the layers of fire and directly penetrating the fire Qilin's body. Even Jiyu Fei was slightly moved by the might of that sword. The fire Qilin let out a blood-curdling screech and directly fell from the sky. Boom! It smashed a large crater in the ground. This, in the distance, some of the spectating experts were inexplicably shocked when they saw this. The white-robed sword god king was too strong. He actually heavily injured the fire Qilin in one move. He was even more ruthless than the unparalleled god king, Yang Lingxiao. Bu Kong and Yang Lingxiao were both supreme experts on the heaven ranking. They were god kings among god kings, and they were extremely powerful. Regular god kings would not even be able to withstand a single strike from them. In their eyes, the fire Qilin was just a beast pet. At this moment, the two supreme god kings faced off in the sky. Terrifying presences swept out in all directions, and the spectating experts constantly retreated far away. Rumble, the two presences constantly clashed, and the space between the two supreme god kings constantly shook. Kill! Bu Kong suddenly bellowed out furiously. In the next moment, an extremely sharp streak of light shot out from his body. It turned into a streak of light and directly shot towards Yang Lingxiao. The streak of light directly ripped through the surrounding space, leaving behind pitch-black cracks. Yang Lingxiao sneered. He waved his hands before him, and in the next moment, the space around him actually began to ripple like water. The sword beam shot out by Bu Kong easily pierced through the void in front of Yang Lingxiao and disappeared into the void. What? Bu Kong was taken aback. In an instant, he could no longer sense the existence of his sword beam. It was as if it had vanished into thin air. The Great Way of Space. Jiyu Fei was rather surprised to see this. Yang Lingxiao actually cultivated the Great Way of Space. Vroom. The space shook and a pitch-black whirlpool appeared in the sky, directly swallowing Bu Kong. The whirlpool gave off a heaven-devouring power. Everything in the surroundings was sucked into the whirlpool. Even Bu Kong flew towards the whirlpool. Cutting through the void, Bu Kong bellowed out furiously. In the next moment, an even more powerful power of the Way of the Sword erupted from his body. He immediately turned into a streak of light, tearing through the space and rushing out. Sword cultivators were much more powerful than regular cultivators. With a sword in hand, they could break through all kinds of techniques. The white-robed sword god king, Bu Kong, was the same. With a sword in hand, he could break through all kinds of techniques. Sword formation, rise. Bu Kong bellowed. Countless sword lights shot out from his body and dispersed into the void, forming a sword formation that appeared between the heaven and earth. With a sword as a formation, one could borrow a peerless power. Vroom. The moment the sword formation was set up, it immediately communicated with the sky and the earth. Spiritual chi in the sky and earth crazily gathered towards the sword formation. Clang. Countless rays of light kept changing and a terrifying sword aura was rapidly condensing. Seal of void destruction. Yang Lingxiao kept forming seals with both hands. A terrifying power of destruction burst out from his hands. Kill. As soon as Yang Lingxiao's hand seal appeared, a terrifying destructive force immediately rushed toward Bu Kong. Hee, who's afraid of who? Bu Kong controlled the sword formation and went straight for Yang Lingxiao's seal of destruction. Boom. With a loud bang, the two extremely powerful forces clashed together. Countless rays of light were shattered. However, the power of the sword formation was endless. After the rays of light were destroyed, more rays of light were formed. Bu Kong's sword formation blocked Yang Lingxiao's void destruction power. Two powerful cultivators were clashing head-on. This was a clash of pure power. The strong would survive, while the weak would die. Whether it was Bu Kong or Yang Lingxiao, they were not weak. They were both divine kings among divine kings, kings among kings. Now that they had met, this battle was inevitable. Jiu Fei knew this kind of people very well. Boom. Boom. Yang Lingxiao desperately activated the Void Destruction Seal, wanting to destroy Bu Kong. However, Bu Kong's sword formation was extremely powerful. It was not any weaker than Yang Lingxiao's. The two were evenly matched. It would not be easy to determine a winner. It was very likely that both of them would be injured. This was a battle between two heroes. It had attracted countless cultivators to watch. More and more cultivators were gathering around. Chapter 4101. The white-robed Sword God King, Bu Kong, had once killed the 13th Sword God King on the Sky List. Sword Shasan had replaced his position on the Sky List. The Sky List was a list of geniuses below the realm of Shun King. Shun King was not on the list. The highest realm on the Sky List was the Divine King. They were geniuses that had risen in the past 10,000 years. Bu Kong and Yang Lingxiao were both peerless divine kings on the Sky List. To become a peerless divine king in 10,000 years was a genius. One should know that the majority of cultivators could not become a divine king in 10,000 years, they could not even become a profound god. Some people with heaven-defying divine bodies could cultivate at an unimaginable speed. Some became a divine king in 100 years, some cultivated for 1,000 years and became a Shun king. If they could cultivate for 10,000 years and become an emperor, they would be a monstrous existence. In the entire heavenly divine world, there was only one person who became an emperor in 10,000 years. At this moment, Bu Kong and Yang Lingxiao were moving quickly in the void. Bu Kong pointed his finger and countless sword lights shot up to the sky, piercing towards Yang Lingxiao. Void annihilation, Yang Lingxiao shouted, and his hands kept forming seals. The exterminating divine power surged out and countless sword lights that pierced through disappeared in the void. Yang Lingxiao's seal of annihilation seemed to be able to destroy everything. Yang Lingxiao, do you really want to fight to the death? Bu Kong stood in the eye of the sword formation and stared at Yang Lingxiao coldly. Sword Shasan is my good friend. You killed him, so I will kill you today. Yang Lingxiao said in a deep voice. Sword Shasan and Yang Lingxiao were sworn brothers. Sword Shasan was ranked 13th on the Sky List, while Yang Lingxiao was stronger than him. He was a peerless divine king. Ha ha! Can you kill me? Bu Kong laughed and said. At this moment, the entire heaven and earth were filled with sharp sword chi. A huge sword formation covered the sky and the earth, trapping Yang Lingxiao in it. At this moment, the fire Qilin wanted to slip away. This divine beast was injured by Bu Fukong, so it couldn't be fierce anymore. It could only admit defeat. At this moment, a figure suddenly flipped onto the fire Qilin's back. Ha ha, just obediently be my mount. The man said with a loud laugh. Puny human, get the hell down here. The fire Qilin was furious. A powerful divine flame erupted from its body, wanting to burn the person on its back to ashes. Within the divine flame, there were faintly discernible divine runes. This was a type of Dao flame, solar Dao flame. It could burn all things in the world. If one could cultivate the power of 10 suns, even supreme beings would have a headache. However, that person ignored the divine fire. The divine fire burned the man's body, but it couldn't hurt him at all. This person was Jiu Fei. Boom. Jiu Fei grabbed the fire Qilin's head and smashed it into the ground. The divine beast fire Qilin was both shocked and angry. The strength of the other party's hand that was grabbing onto its head was shockingly strong. It was actually much stronger than a divine beast like itself. Release this deity. The fire Qilin flew into a rage. Divine Lord, haha, divine my ass. Jiu Fei laughed as he held the Qilin's head with one hand and punched the Qilin's head with the other. Bam! 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 Divine Lord, is it? Divine Lord! Bam! 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 Jiu Fei punched the divine beast a dozen times in a row, directly knocking it out. The fire Qilin immediately lost its temper. Are you still in Divine Lord? Ji Fei asked, panting. I wouldn't dare, I wouldn't dare. I'm not an divine lord, you are. The fire Qilin hurriedly said. Are you willing to be my mount? Ji Fei said. Yes, yes. The fire Qilin was completely terrified. This divine beast is mine. At this moment, a lazy voice was suddenly heard. Ji Fei looked in the direction of the voice and saw a fat man in a daoist robe sitting on a large rock. He was holding a scarlet fruit and eating it in big bites. Damn fatty, what did you say? Ji Fei was amused when he saw this guy. Any fatty was not simple. He wanted to see what this guy was capable of to dare to snatch the divine beast from him. Are you deaf? I want this divine beast. The fatty threw the fruit in his hand and jumped down from the big rock. He looked at Ji Fei with a smirk. He, if you are capable, bring it on. If you defeat me, this divine beast will be yours. Ji Fei rode on the fire Qilin and looked at the fatty with a faint smile. Do you know who I am? How dare you be so presumptuous in front of me? The fatty said angrily. Who are you? Ji Fei asked. Listen up. I am the Lord of Heavenly Divine Realm. Do you know what a Lord of Heavenly Divine Realm is? Fatty said with an arrogant expression. Lord of Heavenly Divine Realm? When Ji Fei heard this, he couldn't help but be shocked. This unprepossessing fellow was actually the realm lord of the Heavenly God Realm? How was this possible? No one knew better than Ji Fei what a Lord of Heavenly Divine Realm was. If this fatty was the Lord of Heavenly Divine Realm, wouldn't he be invincible in Heavenly Divine Realm? That's right. I am the Lord of Heavenly Divine Realm. The fatty said proudly. Ha ha. I'm dying of laughter. Ji Fei looked at the fatty and suddenly laughed. This guy didn't even have the aura of Shen King. How could he be the Lord of Heavenly Divine Realm? The Lord of Heavenly Divine Realm was the ruler of the entire world. The position of the Lord of Heavenly Divine Realm was the highest in the entire Heavenly Divine Realm. No matter how he looked, Ji Fei felt that this fatty couldn't be a peerless expert. He didn't have the demeanor of an expert at all. Instead, he looked like a ruffian. What are you laughing at? The fatty was unhappy. The consequences would be dire. I'm laughing at your nonsense. Ji Fei said. You little brat, how dare you doubt me? Go to hell. The fatty jumped up and slapped his palm towards Ji Fei. A powerful force immediately exploded from his palm. Buzz. The void trembled and a huge golden hand immediately appeared between the heavens and the earth, heading straight for Ji Fei. Why are you talking so much nonsense? We should have started a long time ago. Ji Fei smiled and punched out. Boom. A muffled sound rang out, and a shocking scene appeared. A small fist actually blocked a huge golden hand that was the size of a small mountain. No wonder you dare to look down on me. So you do have some ability. The fatty's eyebrows twitched. He knew that he had met his match. Bang. Ji Fei's right fist shook. The huge golden hand that was emitting powerful divine force immediately collapsed in the void. The fatty staggered and almost fell to the ground. Ayo, my great lord of Heavenly Divine Realm. Why can't you block my punch? Ji Fei mocked. The fatty was infuriated and almost vomited blood. Offending this Lord of Heavenly Divine Realm. This Lord of Heavenly Divine Realm wants you to beg for death. The fatty stared at Ji Fei and roared. One claims to be an ultimate god and the other claims to be a Lord of Heavenly Divine Realm. Are you guys here to play with me? Ji Fei patted the fire Qilin he was riding and looked at the fatty. Lord of Heavenly Divine Realm, come and save me. The fire Qilin that Ji Fei was riding looked at the fatty as though it had seen its savior. Don't worry. This Lord of Heavenly Divine Realm will save you. The fatty said. What game are you guys playing? Ji Fei said with a smile that didn't look like a smile. Boom. The fatty didn't say anything else. He stretched out his hand and grabbed at Ji Fei. It was as if he was going to grab the entire world in his hand. Huh. Upon seeing this, Ji Fei couldn't help but be moved. This fatty's cultivation was only at the Divine King realm, but his comprehension of the Great Tao was much more profound. He didn't dare to be negligent and immediately punched out. It was just a starting stance, but a palpitating fist intent had already surged out. Then, the fat man let out a miserable scream as he was sent flying. What kind of punch is this? The fatty was sent flying 100 miles away before he managed to stabilize his body. A trace of blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. The fist intent emitted by Jiu Fei's fist technique caused Fatty to turn pale with fright, as if he had seen something unbelievable. A self-created supreme fist. Jiu Fei kept his smile and said seriously, "Supreme fist. How about teaching me?" The fatty said with a smile. "This is a fist that belongs to me. Others can't learn it." Jiu Fei said solemnly. At his level of cultivation, he had already seen through everything. Whether it was the mortals of the human realm or the heavenly god realm, they were all the same. They were all running around for their own benefits. No one would do anything that wasn't beneficial. Again, the fatty roared and attacked again. Violent divine power burst out from his body, and silk-like spiritual light that could be seen with the naked eye wrapped around Jiu Fei and the others. A streak of spiritual light flashed past the boulder, and the entire boulder was split in half. Upon seeing this, Jiu Fei couldn't help but be shocked. However, he had an almost indestructible martial body and wasn't afraid of the fatty's attack at all. Countless spiritual lights that could be seen with the naked eye dissipated the moment they came into contact with Jiu Fei. How is this possible? The fatty couldn't believe it. "Alright, I'm done playing with you." Jiu Fei didn't care if the fatty was a realm lord or not. He immediately threw a punch. It seemed like an ordinary punch. However, in the next moment, the fat man's entire body exploded and turned into a bloody mist. This bloody mist showed no signs of dissipating. It didn't take long for a figure to appear from within the bloody mist. After that, the fatty appeared before Jiu Fei once again. Jiu Fei couldn't help but be surprised. This guy's cultivation wasn't much, but his divine body seemed to be a little special. He was actually able to withstand a punch from Jiu Fei. This realm lord is indestructible. "What can you do to me?" the fatty said disdainfully. Indestructible? Chapter 4102. In the depths of the Nankuan mountain range, the white-robed sword god king, Bu Kong, and the peerless divine king, Yang Lingxiao, were fighting. Up in the sky, countless rays of sword light were constantly being created and destroyed. The powerful sword chi rippled in all directions, shocking everyone who was watching the battle. It was a huge sword formation formed by countless rays of sword light. Each ray of sword light was like a peerless heavenly sword that could destroy everything in the world. From time to time, the rays of sword light that shot out from the sword formation were much larger than the mountain range on the ground. Wherever they passed, the void would be cut open and a pitch-black sword mark would be left behind. At that moment, the yuan of heaven and earth in the entire world was attracted by the sword formation. Earth yuan qi in the shape of dragons rose from the ground. It was the essence qi of the earth that had been condensed and nurtured in the depths of the earth for countless years. Every essence qi of the earth was 10,000 times heavier than a real mountain range. However, at that moment, the essence qi of the earth was forcibly attracted by Bu Kong's peerless sword formation. Streams of earth vein essence qi rushed out of the ground like huge dragons, directly rushing into the sword formation. Rumble. The entire sword formation kept shaking and releasing a terrifying aura of destruction. Bu Kong, who was sitting cross-legged in the center of the sword formation, seemed to have turned into the sword emperor of the ninth heaven. With a thought, the surging sword chi rushed toward Yang Lingxiao, who was trapped in the formation, like an ocean tide. Although Yang Lingxiao seemed to be at a disadvantage, he was still rampaging in the sword formation. The destructive divine power that came from his body was able to block the layers of sword light. His hands kept forming destructive hand seals. Every time he struck out, he could destroy a piece of sword light. Even though Bu Kong had attracted the essence qi of the earth, he could not do anything to Yang Lingxiao. Meanwhile, the experts who were watching the battle from afar were extremely shocked. The existences on the heaven list were indeed powerful. They deserved their reputation. Whether it was Bu Kong or Yang Lingxiao, they were both strong enough to compete with Shen King. They were able to challenge Shen King, who was at a higher level than them. This was the difference between geniuses and ordinary people. Geniuses could do what others could not. Geniuses had nature-defying divine bodies, nature-defying cultivation methods, and nature-defying divine weapons. The combination of these three factors was enough to pose a threat to Shen King. Of course, although Bu Kong and the others could challenge Shen King, they could only stand shoulder to shoulder with an ordinary Shen King. It should be noted that among the Shen King, there were also monstrous geniuses who were invincible in the same realm. Buzz! The sword chimes shook the heavens. Countless sword lights covered the sky and slashed at Yang Lingxiao, who was trapped in the sword formation. Every sword light displayed a terrifying power that could destroy the world. The space around Yang Lingxiao was filled with sword light, dense and endless. The power of the sword kept increasing, and the essence of the world from all directions gathered towards the sword matrix. Compete. Yang Lingxiao sneered and formed a seal with his hands. In the next moment, the space around him seemed to collapse, and the countless sword lights that pierced through it disappeared. Those sword lights seemed to have suddenly entered another world. He used the exterminating space mudra to its limit, and a deep black hole formed around him. Kill! Bu Kong roared. In the next moment, the power of the entire sword matrix suddenly condensed and turned into an immortal sword light. After that, even he himself turned into a ray of light that tore through the sky and slashed at Yang Lingxiao. Bu Kong was going to risk his life. This attack gathered the power of the entire sword matrix. He temporarily merged with this power. Under this attack, the space around him could not withstand it and was constantly destroyed. At that moment, Yang Lingxiao's face became extremely grim. In the next moment, the space around him suddenly collapsed and turned into a real black hole, swallowing everything in the world. Even light was sucked into the black hole. This was the power of swallowing the sky. Ordinary divine kings would not be able to withstand this attack. Even if Shen King were here, he would have to retreat. However, at that moment, Bu Kong's sword slashed into the black hole. The sword light went straight for Yang Lingxiao, who was in the middle of the black hole. Even the black hole could not swallow the sword light. Swoosh! The sword light flashed and blood appeared. Yang Lingxiao screamed in pain as his left arm was chopped off. At this moment, a pitch-black spatial crack swept through the sword light, causing it to tremble violently. After that, the sword light disappeared, and Bu Kong's figure appeared in the sky. He staggered and spat out a mouthful of blood. His face turned deathly pale. Although the white-robed sword god king, Bu Beikong, had chopped off his opponent's left arm, he had also suffered a great blow and was grievously injured. Even though Bu Kong's divine body was incomparably strong, he could not withstand such a powerful force. Is this the rhythm of both sides suffering? In the distance, an old man stared at the two figures and said in a deep voice, "Both sides suffering? Hee." A mysterious black figure concealed in the black energy glared at them. Within the black energy, two bloody lights shone. It was the demonic light from the mysterious black figure's eyes. The battle between the two peerless divine kings attracted the attention of countless experts. The experts of the 5 superforces of the southern divine region had come, including the divine king of the Wang family. Boom! Powerful spiritual wills swept through the void, causing the weak living beings to tremble in fear. The divine king of the Wang family immediately locked onto Ji Yufei. At this moment, the battle between Ji Yufei and the fatty had reached the most crucial moment. Ji Yufei punched again and an invincible fist intent surged out. Without any suspense, the fatty's divine body was destroyed by Ji Yufei's punch again. The bloody mist gradually gathered and a figure appeared from within the bloody light. That person was the fatty who claimed to be the heavenly god realm's realm lord. "I already said that I am immortal. There is no one in this world who can kill me," the fatty said to Ji Yufei arrogantly. "Is that so?" Ji Yufei looked at the fatty with a faint smile. Although this guy's cultivation was nothing special, his tone was frighteningly arrogant. He probably had a powerful background. But no matter how powerful this little fatty's background was, could it be more powerful than him? Ji Yufei was once an invincible existence in the eternal realm. He could kill an extreme supreme with a single hand. What left Jiyu Fei speechless was the fact that this fatty actually possessed an indestructible body. Even if he were to be blasted into smithereens, he would still be able to recover. Jiyu Fei could vaguely sense an immortal aura in the fatty's body. This aura was somewhat similar to his eternal energy. Roar. Under Jiyu Fei's crotch, the fire Qilin roared uneasily. Little guy, surrender obediently or I will destroy your body and soul. Fatty shouted at Jiyu Fei with a stern expression. Aya, I'm so scared. Do you have the ability? Jiyu Fei teased. Go to hell. The fatty was furious. He took out a black, fist-sized object and threw it at Jiyu Fei. What is this? Jiyu Fei instinctively rode the fire Qilin and moved sideways. Boom. With a loud bang, the fist-sized spherical object suddenly exploded. Bolts of lightning flashed and tore through the void of heaven and earth. With the explosion as the center, everything within a radius of 10,000 zhong was directly destroyed by the destructive thunderfire. This fatty, seeing this scene, Jiyu Fei couldn't help but be shocked. The power of this thing was astonishing. If he hadn't dodged in time, even if he didn't die from the explosion, he would have been in a very difficult situation. Heaven-scorching divine thunder. Jiyu Fei recognized the origin of this power. Whether it was in the heavenly god realm, the human realm, or the heaven realm, there were people who used great magic power to collect the thunder fire above the ninth heaven and refine it into various kinds of thunder Dao magic tools. The heaven-scorching divine thunder was one of them. The power of the heaven-scorching divine thunder bead was obvious to all. A single bead could easily wipe out a small city. Of course, the higher the cultivation, the more powerful the heaven-scorching divine thunder bead refined. At this time, Jiyu Fei already sensed that someone in the sky had locked onto him with his divine sense. The aura wasn't unfamiliar to him. It was the Divine King from the Wang clan. Although the Divine King's cultivation was far from Yang Lingxiao's and Bu Bukong's, he was still a Divine King. Little guy, come, I'll treat you to the heaven-scorching divine thunder bead. The fatty took out several heaven-scorching divine thunder beads and threw them at Jiyu Fei. Jiyu Fei made a gesture with both hands. The void between heaven and earth seemed to be turned upside down in an instant, and the heaven-scorching divine thunder beads immediately flew back at the fatty. Ouch, damn it. Fatty's face turned green when he saw this. He immediately took off running for his life. Little guy, let's see where you can run to now. At this time, a cold voice suddenly came from the sky. Jiyu Fei looked up and saw a powerful figure standing high in the sky, looking down at him. The Wang clan's divine king? Jiyu Fei was still calm. He had killed the Wang clan's young master Wang Yong, so the Wang clan naturally would not let him go. However, if a divine king wanted to kill him, then they were looking down on him. Rumble, at this time, a huge black hand like a black mountain slammed down on Jiyu Fei from the sky. Everywhere it passed, the void trembled, and the world seemed to be crushed by this huge hand. The power of a divine king was extremely powerful. Boom! The earth shook, and dust flew everywhere. A cloud of smoke spread out in the mountains. When the smoke dissipated, a huge palm print could be seen on the ground. This guy is dead for sure. Seeing this scene, everyone was extremely shocked. The divine king in the sky slapped Jiyu Fei and his fire Qilin into the ground. Even the divine king in the sky was satisfied with his attack. Boom! Just when everyone thought that Jiyu Fei was dead for sure, there was a loud noise. A ball of fire rushed out from the palm print on the ground, and a violent aura spread in all directions. Under the cover of the divine fire, Jiyu Fei rode on the back of the fire Qilin, looking extremely majestic. This. Chapter 4103. The eyes of the divine king from the Wang clan almost popped out of their sockets. He could not believe that a mere true god like Jiyu Fei was able to survive after being hit by his palm. Moreover, he did not seem to be injured at all. Not only Jiyu Fei, but even the fire Qilin that he was riding was unharmed. How is this possible? The others who noticed this scene were also inexplicably shocked. That was a divine king, yet he could not even kill a mid-tier true god. Eat my fists. At this moment, Jiyu Fei made his move. He roared and threw a punch at the divine king in front of him. The invincible fist intent shook the heavens and the earth. Even the heavens and earth seemed to lose their color. This was not strength, it was just a fist intent. With his current cultivation base, it was impossible for him to perfectly combine his fist intent and strength. However, even if it was just a fist intent, it was enough to shock the world. Even the divine king from the Wang clan who was in the sky could not help but be shocked by Ji Yufei's punch. The divine king from the Wang clan immediately blocked the fist that was coming at him. Ji Yufei's punch was like a hot knife through butter. It directly broke through the divine king's defense and landed a punch on the divine king's chest. In the next moment, the divine king from the Wang clan screamed in pain. His entire body was shattered by the power of Ji Yufei's punch and turned into a cloud of blood mist. What? The fatty happened to see this scene. He was so shocked that he forgot to close his mouth. He killed a divine king with a single punch. How was this possible? However, even though the fatty found it hard to believe, he had to accept the truth. However, the divine king from the Wang clan was also impressive. He was not someone that the city lord of the southern Kuan ancient city could compare to. The shattered divine body actually reassembled in an instant. A powerful figure appeared in the sky. Kill. The divine king from the Wang clan roared and waved his hands. 2 balls of divine light immediately rushed out from his hands and slashed at Ji Yufei. Swoosh. The 2 balls of divine light were like sharp blades that cut through the void. Powerful waves of divine power erupted from the 2 balls of divine light, leaving behind 2 pitch-black spatial cracks wherever they passed. Good. Ji Yufei laughed and reached out with both hands. He actually grabbed the 2 balls of divine light with his bare hands. The fatty was dumbfounded. This guy's divine body was so strong that he could actually take on a divine weapon with his bare hands. Ji Yufei laughed as he exerted force in his hands. The 2 balls of divine light in his hands suddenly exploded, turning into a rain of light that dissipated into the void. Ji Yufei's physique was tyrannical to the extreme. Even though he was only a mid-level true god, his physique was unbelievably strong, capable of contending against a god king. In his body, the eternal true bone continuously emitted eternal power to temper his flesh, blood, tendons, and bones. Even the most heaven-defying divine body in the heavenly god realm could not compare to his physical body. Ji Yufei raised his hand and used Crack the Firmament, sending the Wang clan's divine king flying. The Wang clan's divine king, Wang Shifeng, was sent flying, coughing out blood. He was shocked. He was a divine king. How could he be beaten by a true god? The scene of Ji Yufei defeating a divine king with a single punch shocked everyone. The Wang clan's Wang Shifeng was a divine king, and not just any divine king, but a mid-level god king. An ordinary god king could not be compared to him. Boom! Like a meteor falling from the sky, Wang Shifeng directly smashed into a mountain 1,000 li away. The entire mountain exploded, sending dust and dirt into the sky. Even Bu Kong and Yang Lingxiao, who were in the middle of the battle, noticed this scene and were shocked. This guy is incredible. Could he be the same as me, the reincarnation of an old monster? The fatty was speechless. Even though he had an immortal body, he was not as strong as this guy. Me. God King. Just SOSO. Ji Yufei looked at the cloud of dust rising 1,000 miles away and said indifferently. At this time, the fire Chalene under him had completely become obedient. It had no choice but to be obedient. Fatty, come here. Let me see what you're capable of. How dare you call yourself the heavenly divine world's lord? Ji Yufei waved at the fatty in the distance and said. The fatty hurriedly shook his head. This guy was too ferocious, defeating a divine king with a single punch. Even though he would not be killed, he would definitely suffer. Roar. At this time, an angry roar came from afar. Then, everyone saw a silhouette soar into the sky from a faraway mountain ridge. This person's body emitted divine light, and a huge silhouette emerged from his body. Powerful and violent energy erupted from that silhouette, causing the entire world to tremble. Bloodline power? Who was Ji Yufei? He could see through this guy's strength with a single glance. Wang family, Wang Shifeng. At this time, he actually awakened his bloodline power. In the primordial era, an extraordinary existence came from the Wang family. He once unified the southern divine region and became the ruler of the region, competing with the other rulers. That ancestor of the Wang family was an emperor realm existence. The descendants of emperor realm experts all had the bloodline of the god emperor. Once their bloodline was awakened, they would possess great power. The emperor realm experts could pass their power to the next generation through bloodline inheritance. Of course, as it was passed down from generation to generation, the bloodline would gradually become thinner and eventually disappear. Wang Shifeng was the 9th generation descendant of the Wang family's god emperor. The bloodline in his body was already very thin, but who would have thought that his bloodline power would erupt at this time? Roar. The silhouette on Wang Shifeng's body roared towards the sky. A terrifying aura of destruction spread out, even divine kings would tremble. You go. Ji Yufei jumped down from the back of the fire Qilin and waved his right hand. The fire Qilin flew towards Wang Shifeng involuntarily. Master, don't. The fire Qilin's shock was no small matter. Wang Shifeng's eyes suddenly opened. 2 beams of divine light immediately rushed out of his eyes and pierced towards the fire Qilin. Damn it! The fire Qilin opened its mouth and spat out a mouthful of sun-true fire. Boom! The divine fire filled the sky, burning the sky and boiling the sea. It directly burned the divine light that rushed out of Wang Shifeng's eyes into nothingness. In an instant, Wang Shifeng was drowned in the divine fire. Kill! An angry roar came from the sea of fire. Then, a huge beast directly flew out of the sea of fire. This huge beast was the fire Qilin. Master, save me. The fire Qilin's body was badly mutilated. One of the dragon horns on its head was also broken. It looked extremely miserable. Still want to leave. At this time, a huge hand stretched out of the sea of fire and directly grabbed the fire Qilin. Chapter 4104. Wang Shifeng actually managed to awaken the power of his bloodline at this crucial moment. As the power of his bloodline erupted, Wang Shifeng's cultivation base rose rapidly. Very quickly, his cultivation base rose from mid-level God King realm to the Great Perfection God King realm. Wang Shifeng ignored the fire Qilin's attack. The solar quintessence fire didn't even manage to burn a single strand of his hair. With a casual punch, he sent the fire Qilin flying. The violent punch directly broke one of the fire Qilin's dragon horns. The insufferably arrogant fire Qilin was beaten half to death. Wang Shifeng felt his entire body was brimming with energy. The battle blood in his body was boiling. It was as though he could shatter the heavens with a single punch. He extended his hand and grabbed towards the fire Qilin. Boundless spiritual energy of heaven and earth was drawn over by him. A huge palm appeared in the sky and enveloped the fire Qilin. Just as the fire Qilin was about to fall into Wang Shifeng's hand, Ji Yufei made his move. A ray of sword light rushed out from his finger. It turned into a peerless sword light and slashed at Wang Shifeng's right hand. In the next moment, Wang Shifeng exclaimed in shock. The huge palm he condensed was destroyed by the sword light. The fire Qilin took the opportunity to escape. At this time, a figure walked towards the sky step by step. With every step he took, heaven and earth trembled. In just 3 steps, that person had already arrived in front of the fire Qilin. The fire Qilin turned into a ray of divine light and landed on Ji Yufei's right arm. A fire Qilin pattern appeared on his right arm. Is this the legendary Qilin arm? Ji Yufei didn't expect the fire Qilin to have such a move. It attached itself to his right arm. Ji Yufei, die. At this time, an angry roar came from the sea of flames in the sky. Then, a ray of divine light broke through the layers of solar quintessence fire and pierced towards Ji Yufei. The fire Qilin's natal quintessence fire turned into a sea of flames. It was incomparably terrifying. Ji Yufei raised his right hand and pressed it upwards. In the next moment, the divine light that pierced through the void collapsed. Even the solar real fire that filled the sky was completely dispersed by this palm. Wang Shifeng's figure appeared high in the sky. Without any unnecessary words, the 2 powerhouses started fighting. Wang Shifeng's entire body was surrounded by divine light, and a ring of divine light was faintly discernible behind his head. An unimaginably strong power was condensing in his body. He seemed to have gone mad as he directly punched at Ji Yufei. Bam! The two fists collided, and Wang Shifeng was forced back 1,000 feet. What? Wang Shifeng was shocked. His cultivation had already broken through to the great perfection God King realm, and he had even awakened the power of bloodline. Was he still not a match for this guy? Boom! Dull sounds of collision resounded continuously as the two fists kept colliding. Wang Shifeng was extremely depressed. He was still forced back by Ji Yufei. Ji Yufei punched 13 times in a row, and Wang Shifeng was sent flying 13 times. However, Wang Shifeng only took 10 steps back. The power of bloodline made Wang Shifeng's divine body even stronger. He wanted to use the battle with Ji Yufei to completely integrate his bloodline and increase his cultivation as much as possible. What's wrong? You can't do it anymore? I haven't used any strength yet. Ji Yufei looked at Wang Shifeng, who was opposite him. He saw that Wang Shifeng's right fist was dripping with blood, and the corner of his mouth was bleeding. His hair was messy, and his eyes were red. He looked extremely miserable. Cut the crap. Again. Wang Shifeng's eyes were wild, and his entire body was filled with power. He pounced at Ji Yufei fiercely again. Well, the warm-up exercise is over. As Ji Yufei spoke, he clenched his right fist and his entire arm abruptly turned red, like a red-hot branding iron. Strands of heat emerged from his skin. Swoosh! Ji Yufei punched out, and a sonic boom resounded in the void. In the next moment, his fist smashed into Wang Shifeng's fist. Catcher! The sound of bones breaking rang out. Wang Shifeng screamed in pain, and his entire arm twisted strangely. The bones in his arm were all broken. Just SOSO. Ji Yufei's cold voice resounded. Preposterous. Wang Shifeng was about to go crazy. At this moment, Ji Yufei's fist smashed over again. When he was serious, it wasn't a small matter. Without any suspense, Wang Shifeng was sent flying again. Blood appeared, and blood rained down from the sky. The left side of Wang Shifeng's body was a bloody mess. His entire left arm, shoulder, and half of his body were smashed into a bloody mist by Ji Yufei's punch. Everyone who saw this scene was shocked to the extreme. At this time, the battle between Bu Kong and Yang Lingxiao had also come to an end. Bu Kong walked out from the depths of the mountain, his body covered in blood. Yang Lingxiao couldn't come out. In the end, Bu Kong is still stronger. Someone exclaimed. Bu Kong's sword could break all kinds of magic. As long as he had a sword in his hand, he seemed to be invincible in the world. However, it was a narrow victory for him. He directly turned into a sword light and soared into the sky, disappearing into the horizon. He directly left the southern Kuan mountain range. At this time, everyone's eyes were on Ji Yufei and Wang Shifeng. However, there was no longer any suspense in this battle. Swish! Ji Yufei took a step forward and instantly caught up with Wang Shifeng, who was flying backward. Then, he stomped his foot. Bam! Wang Shifeng didn't even have time to scream. His divine body directly exploded under Ji Yufei's foot, turning into a bloody mist. Both his body and soul were destroyed. Who is this person? He looks unfamiliar, but he can actually defeat Wang Shifeng. Someone exclaimed. Ji Yufei had stomped Wang Shifeng to death. This scene was incomparably shocking. Especially the people of the Wang clan, they were even more shocked and angry. Many people of the Wang clan had died in Ji Yufei's hands. They were the most outstanding existences of the Wang clan. Whether it was the young master of the Wang clan, Wang Yong, or the current Wang Shifeng, they all had important positions in the Wang clan. When the news of Ji Yufei killing Wang Shifeng reached the Wang clan, everyone in the Wang clan was shocked. The higher-ups were in an uproar. Even the leader of the Wang clan, Wang Zhaotian, was furious. Ji Yufei, I want you to die. Wang Zhaotian directly smashed the table next to him with one palm. Leader, even Wang Shifeng isn't that guy's opponent. An elder of the Wang clan wanted to say something but stopped. What are you afraid of? I will go and ask for the ancestral weapon. I don't believe that I can't kill that guy. Wang Zhaotian said hatefully. Then, He directly turned around and strode out. He was going to ask for the ancestral weapon. The reason why the Wang clan could survive until now was largely due to the existence of the ancestral weapon. With the ancestral weapon protecting the Wang clan, they wouldn't be exterminated. At this time, Ji Yufei stomped Wang Shifeng to death. Then, he stared at the fat man in the distance with a smile that wasn't a smile. Chapter 4105. Ji Yufei killed Wang Shifeng with a single stomp. This scene was extremely shocking. Everyone was dumbfounded and couldn't believe it. Who is this? How dare he kill Wang Shifeng with a single stomp? Wang Shifeng is the peerless genius of the Wang family. After his bloodline awakened, he became even more powerful. Could this little guy be the successor of one of those inheritances? Someone was bewildered. The heavenly god realm had some mysterious, powerful and incomparably ancient inheritances. These ancient inheritances were the true rulers of the heavenly god realm. Since ancient times, there were countless major events that happened in the heavenly god realm. There were always traces of experts from these ancient powers. Although the Wang family was powerful, there were still the 5 great god emperors of the southern divine region above them. Even if the Wang family allied with the southern heaven god emperor, they wouldn't dare to challenge these ancient powers. It can't be, those people haven't appeared for thousands of years. Someone said in shock. It's hard to say. An old man said with a serious expression. The existence of those ancient powers was mysterious. No one knew where their ancestral land was. No one knew how they traveled the world. After hearing the old man's words, everyone fell silent. At this moment, the fatty was so scared that he peed his pants. He turned around and ran because Ji Yufei had his eyes on him. In the fatty's eyes, Ji Yufei was simply a peerless, ferocious person. Being targeted by such a ferocious person, if he didn't run, should he just obediently wait to be beaten? Don't be fooled by the fatty's fat body. When he ran, he was many times faster than a rabbit. Wherever the fatty passed, he left behind a series of afterimages in the void. Boom! A figure descended from the sky and landed on the ground. A huge crater appeared on the ground and the ground shook. A circle of dust swept out in all directions. This person was Ji Yufei. Ha ha, trying to escape? Ji Yufei laughed and jumped up from the ground. He didn't fly in the air, he relied on his physical strength. This jump actually crossed the void and landed dozens of miles away. This wasn't Ji Yufei's limit. An ordinary true god's divine body was also extremely strong. They could split mountains and split rivers with a single palm. On the other hand, Ji Yufei's martial body was much stronger than his divine body. It was child's play for him to leap dozens of miles in one go. However, this kind of speed was different in the eyes of others. The heavenly god realm wasn't the immortal martial realm of the lower realms. The laws of heaven and earth here were more complete, and the energy of heaven and earth here was even stronger. If living beings from the immortal martial realm appeared in the heavenly god realm, they would be suppressed by the laws of heaven and earth and would be no different from ordinary humans. Martial immortals who could summon the wind and summon the rain in the immortal martial realm could only obediently walk on the ground in the heavenly divine realm. Wanting to fly in the air, unless he cultivated to the god-king realm. At this time, Ji Yufei had already caught up with the fatty in a few leaps. Why are you chasing me? Fatty roared as he ran. Ha ha! Sir Realm Lord, why are you running? I only wish to discuss life and reason with Sir Realm Lord. Ji Yufei laughed uproariously. This fatty actually dared to proclaim himself as the Realm Lord of the heavenly god realm? He definitely had some background and should know many things. If he could capture this fellow, he wouldn't be like a blind man running around aimlessly in the heavenly god realm. Stop chasing. Fatty ran tens of thousands of miles in a single breath and almost collapsed from exhaustion. Hee, keep running, keep running. Ji Yufei appeared beside Fatty in a calm and composed manner. Boss, please spare me. Fatty stared at Ji Yufei. He wanted to cry but no tears came out. Only now did he know that he had kicked an iron board. I didn't do anything to you. Ji Yufei had a smile that was not a smile on his face as he stared at Fatty. Fatty was completely speechless. In any case, I have an undying body. What can you do to me? Fatty directly sat on the ground, panting heavily. He no longer wanted to run. Who in the world doesn't die? Even for someone as strong as a god emperor, there will be a day when he falls. Your so-called undying body is nothing but a joke to me. Ji Yufei stood with his hands clasped behind his back and said indifferently, "What? You?" When Fatty heard this, he was immediately stunned. This was his biggest secret. He did not expect the other party to see through him. Of course, although I can't kill you for the time being, I can imprison you. Once my cultivation base has recovered, I will send you on your way. Ji Yufei said indifferently. Fatty's expression was extremely ugly. What do you want? Fatty looked at Ji Yufei for a while before he sighed and said helplessly, I want the source of heaven and earth. Ji Yufei said. What? Fatty was taken aback when he heard that. Are you a demon? Fatty's expression was extremely solemn. The people of the demon Dao would always be unscrupulous in order to obtain great power. They would not hesitate to destroy the entire world. In the heavenly god realm, only a few people knew about the source of heaven and earth. Since ancient times, those who had designs on the source of heaven and earth had already turned into dust. No one could touch the source of heaven and earth. Do I look like a demon to you? Ji Yufei shrugged and said. Not just like, but very much. Fatty said. All right, cut the crap. Where is the source of heaven and earth? Ji Yufei's expression became solemn. The heavenly god realm was a high-class world. The source of heaven and earth was no small matter. If he could obtain it, Ji Yufei's eternal indestructible martial body would become even stronger. At that time, even the god emperor would not be able to do anything to him. What do you want the source of heaven and earth for? Fatty asked cautiously. It's none of your business. Just tell me where the source of heaven and earth is. Ji Yufei was getting impatient. Fatty rolled his eyes and said with a smile, Yes. Let me rest for a while, then I will bring Boss to find the source of heaven and earth. That's right. Ji Yufei patted Fatty's shoulder and said, Boss, where are you from? Fatty suddenly thought of something and looked at Ji Yufei in awe. Where? What did you say? Ji Yufei said in confusion. No, nothing. Fatty hurriedly said. A cold light flashed in the depths of his eyes. After resting for a while, Fatty brought Ji Yufei out of the mountain and into another city. This city was much bigger than the southern Kuan ancient city. The huge city wall was like a mountain range in front of them. Many soldiers and generals were stationed on the city towers, and there were also soldiers guarding the city gates. Boss, this is the southern divine region's Tiannan city. The master of this city is the southern heaven god emperor, Shen Kuan. Fatty introduced to Ji Yufei. Tiannan city was one of the 5 largest cities in the southern divine region. There were more than 10 million people living in the city, and there were countless human settlements around the city. There were more than a dozen small cities surrounding this huge city. Such a city could withstand any level of beast tide, and it could also keep out powerful enemies. The southern heaven god emperor's nest. Ji Yufei glanced at Fatty, then strode into the city. So what if he's a god emperor? When I was in the ancestral realm, I even killed a lot of extreme supreme beings. Ji Yufei was not afraid of anyone, which shocked Fatty. The Fatty seemed to be very familiar with Tiannan city. He brought Ji Yufei to a restaurant and ordered a table full of food and wine. Then, he began to gorge himself on the food. No wonder you're so fat. Before Ji Yufei had even moved his chopsticks, Fatty had already finished all the dishes on the table like the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves. This made him very speechless. Of course, at Ji Yufei's level, he no longer needed to eat. He only needed to absorb the natural energy of heaven and earth. Natural energy was what cultivators ate. However, Fatty was an out-and-out foodie. Are you done eating? Can we go? As Ji Yufei spoke, he took out a piece of divine crystal and threw it on the table. Boss, you're rich. The Fatty's eyes widened when he saw the divine crystal. He hurriedly reached out and grabbed it. The fist-sized divine crystal was shrouded in spiritual qi. It seemed like a ball of divine fire was sealed within it. "This is a top-grade divine crystal," Fatty exclaimed. "It's just a divine crystal, what's the fuss?" Ji Fei said disapprovingly. "Boss, don't you know this is a top-grade divine crystal? Even in the entire heavenly god realm, only existences at the level of God Emperor can get their hands on these top-grade divine crystals." Fatty looked at Ji Fei as if he was looking at a monster. All right. As long as you lead me to the source of heaven and earth, I'll give you 5,000 kilograms of this divine crystal." Ji Fei glanced at Fatty and said nonchalantly, "What, 5,000 kilograms?" Fatty's eyes were filled with stars when he heard that. "Boss, my respect for you is like the water of the Milky Way. It's endless." Fatty looked at Ji Fei with admiration. "All right, let's go," Ji Fei said and left his seat. Yes. Fatty hurriedly took out a small divine crystal and threw it to the waiter who was standing at the side like a fool. The waiter was staring at Fatty with a murderous look. Fatty had seen a windfall right in front of his eyes, but it was snatched away by someone else. If looks could kill, Fatty would have died countless times already. One had to know that the divine crystal Ji Fei had just thrown out was enough to buy the entire restaurant. However, the divine crystal that Fatty had thrown out was dim and dull. The spiritual energy contained within it wasn't strong at all. Compared to Ji Fei's divine crystal, it was like the difference between heaven and earth. However, the Fatty was completely transparent to the waiter. He did not even glance at him. He stowed the supreme grade divine crystal away happily before leaving the restaurant with Ji Fei. They went straight to the teleportation formation in Tiannan City. Tiannan City's teleportation formation was divided into two types, city level and domain level. The city level teleportation formation allowed cultivators to travel to any city in the southern divine region. On the other hand, a teleportation formation at the devolution realm could be used to teleport between regions. Cultivators could travel from the southern divine region to the northern divine region or any other divine region using a teleportation formation at the devolution realm. Cultivators had to pay a fee to use the teleportation formation. The city-level teleportation formation wasn't expensive, but the domain-level teleportation formation was different. Most people couldn't afford the fee for a domain-level teleportation formation. Chapter 4106. Southern Heaven God Emperor Xian Kuan never thought that the famous Ji Fei of the Southern Divine Region would come to his base, Southern Heaven City. Ji Fei and the Chubby Realm Master were only passing by. When the Southern Heaven God Emperor received the news, Ji Fei and the Chubby Realm Master were already on the teleportation formation to the Middle Divine Region. Such a cross-domain array platform would consume a lot of spiritual energy. After Ji Fei threw out a piece of ultra-quality divine crystal, everything was easy to do. Immortal crystals and divine crystals that contained spirit energy were indispensable cultivation resources for cultivators no matter which world they were in. Furthermore, the mines of immortal crystals and divine crystals were controlled by the major factions. It was impossible for an ordinary person to own a divine crystal mine. To those independent cultivators, using divine crystals to cultivate was an extremely extravagant thing. However, to the disciples of large forces, it was a very common thing. This was the reason why so many people fought so hard to enter those great sects and become their disciples. The disciples of the divine sects and sects didn't need to worry about cultivation resources. They only needed to focus on their cultivation. Of course, the competition between the divine sects and sects was fierce. For example, the Southern Heaven Divine Palace was divided into a few factions. If it wasn't for the Southern Heaven God Emperor, the entire Southern Heaven Divine Palace would have fallen into internal strife. His Ji Fei. When the Southern Heaven God Emperor arrived, he only saw two blurry figures disappearing from the teleportation formation. Damn it! A white-haired old man appeared beside the Southern Heaven God Emperor. He was the patriarch of the Wang family, Wang Zhaotian. Ji Fei had killed his only son. Wang Zhaotian wanted nothing more than to grind Ji Fei's bones into ashes. In the next moment, a divine eye suddenly emerged from between Wang Zhaotian's brows. Whoosh! The god's eye opened in an instant and a beam of purple light shot out from it. It pierced through the void and went straight for Jiu Fei and little Fatty, who had escaped into the void. This, the Southern Heaven God Emperor was shocked by the sight. Wang Zhaotian was also a God Emperor. Even though he was only a low-level God Emperor, he had the heaven-crushing godly eye. The moment he opened it, he could kill all his enemies. Wang Zhaotian's heaven-breaking godly eyes pierced through the void and instantly caught up with Jiu Fei and the Fatty. Jiu Fei flipped his palm and directly blocked the piercing divine light. Two powerful forces erupted and directly shattered the layer of divine light that enveloped them. Oh no! When Fatty saw this, his shock was no small matter. Without the protection of the divine light, they would be lost in the endless chaos. This was definitely not a good thing for them. After all, even a God Emperor might not be able to find his way back if he got lost in the primal chaos. Thinking of this, Fatty's face turned pale. It's that bastard who dared to plot against me. Fatty was going crazy. Ha. At this moment, in the sky above the teleportation formation of Southern Heaven City, the patriarch of the Wang family, Wang Zhaotian, laughed loudly. Even though he failed to kill Jiu Fei and the others were no different from being dead, because they would forever be lost in the primal chaos. Even a God Emperor would be trapped to death in the primal chaos. Congratulations on avenging your son, Brother Wang. The Southern Heaven God Emperor said with a smile. Timpage, that guy got away with it. If he fell into my hands, I would definitely grind his bones to ashes and nail his soul in divine flames for 10,000 years. Wang Zhaotian said while clenching his teeth. When he learned that his only son, Wang Yong, was killed by Jiu Fei, he almost went crazy. Wang Yong was his belly that he had high hopes for. At this moment, neither the Southern Heaven God Emperor nor Wang Zhaotian had expected Jiu Fei to grab Fatty, turn around and break through the layers of primal chaos, and charge back the way he came. To others, this was certain death, but to Jiu Fei, it was nothing. Trying to make him lose in the primal chaos? That was a joke. He had the wheel of the myriad worlds, the ultimate treasure of the ancestral realm. Rumble. Soon, the sky above Southern Heaven City suddenly trembled. What's going on? The Southern Heaven God Emperor raised his head and looked at the sky. His pupils contracted violently. Boom. With a loud bang, the void exploded, and a huge black hole appeared in the sky above South Heaven City. Primal chaos energy rushed out. Then, two figures rushed out of the black hole. How is this possible? The patriarch of the Wang family, Wang Zhaotian, was shocked to the extreme when he saw the two people rushing out of the black hole. How did they do it? You're the one who ambushed me, Jiu Fei said indifferently as he looked at Wang Zhaotian. This elder's yuan qi undulations were of the same origin as the divine light that had sneak attacked him. So what if it was me? Wang Zhaotian glared at Jiu Fei, his eyes red. Go to hell. Jiu Fei did not waste any words, and attacked immediately. Rumble. Jiu Fei raised his hand and slapped at Wang Zhaotian. The violent energy shook the earth, and the entire sky changed color. Boom. Wang Zhaotian raised his hand and punched. The two forces collided, and in the next moment, Jiu Fei was sent flying. He flew for dozens of miles, and smashed into a mountain with a boom. When Fatty saw this scene, he, who was about to fly into a rage, almost wet his pants. God Emperor, Wang family, you're Wang Zhaotian? Fatty cried out in alarm. Little guy, at least you're knowledgeable. I'll give you a quick death. Wang Zhaotian said as he pointed at Fatty. How dare you? Fatty was both shocked and furious. In the next moment, his entire body exploded. Can't even withstand a single blow. Wang Zhaotian did not take Fatty seriously at all. However, in the next moment, the Fatty's exploded flesh and blood instantly gathered together. A figure appeared in the void, and the Fatty's body was instantly reconstructed. Huh! Wang Zhaotian was surprised to see this. He pointed with his finger once more. Without any suspense, Fatty, who had just reassembled his body, exploded again. Damn it! In the void, Fatty's divine will was transmitted. Little guy, how dare you attack me? Fatty roared. He actually called Wang Zhaotian a little guy. His shattered body was reassembled again, and Fatty was about to go crazy. Although he did not have to worry about being beaten to death by Wang Zhaotian, the feeling of having his divine body destroyed was not good either. Wang Zhaotian continued to attack. His finger pointed 12 times, and the Fatty's divine body exploded 12 times. This almost drove the Fatty crazy. "Little guy, I'm going to destroy your Wang family." Chapter 4107. The Fatty with the undying divine body was about to go crazy. His divine body had been destroyed 12 times by the patriarch of the Wang family, Wang Zhaotian. 12 times, this Wang Zhaotian is seriously insane. "I'll destroy your Wang family. I'll destroy your Wang family." The Fatty was enraged. He reconstructed his divine body once again. Interesting. Could it be the legendary indestructible divine body? The Southern Heaven God Emperor's expression changed. "The legendary undying divine body?" Wang Zhaotian said in astonishment. He stared at the Fatty like a starving beast, wishing he could devour the Fatty in one gulp. "Wang family, I'll remember this," the Fatty said while clenching his teeth. "Little guy, do you really think you can leave this place alive?" Wang Zhaotian stared at the Fatty and sneered. "I'm undying and indestructible. Do you really think you can threaten me with just 2 small shrimps? What a joke." The Fatty glanced at the Southern Heaven God Emperor and Wang Zhaotian and said disdainfully, "Is that so?" Wang Zhaotian's face darkened as he approached the Fatty. Boom. At this moment, a loud sound came from afar. The mountain that was dozens of miles away directly exploded. A figure, like a peerless demon emperor, fiercely pounced towards Wang Zhaotian. "What?" Wang Zhaotian was shocked. "This guy is still alive after taking a palm strike from me. Not only is Ji Yufei not dead, he doesn't seem to be injured at all." Wang Zhaotian was in disbelief. "This is unbelievable." Roar. Ji Yufei let out an angry roar and threw a punch at Wang Zhaotian. "So what if the opponent is a god emperor? I'll still hit him." A powerful and violent fist energy exploded. It felt like the sky was about to be shattered by the punch. It was as if it could destroy everything. "You overestimate yourself," Wang Zhaotian said disdainfully. In the next moment, he threw a punch too. Dong. The 2 fists collided with each other in an instant, producing a thunder-like sound of war drums. A circle of energy waves spread out, and the void directly rippled like water. Ji Yufei let out a cold harumph and was sent flying again. What a powerful divine body. Wang Zhaotian was finally moved when he saw that Ji Yufei could actually take his fist head-on. However, Wang Zhaotian was a celestial the arch after all. Although Ji Yufei's martial body was exceptionally strong, the difference between the 2 of them was too great. If it wasn't for the protection of the eternal energy, Ji Yufei would have been smashed to smithereens by Wang Zhaotian. "Little fellow, I want you to regret being born into this world," Wang Zhaotian said loudly. In the next moment, a series of clang. The next moment, a divine chain shot out from his body and wrapped around Ji Yufei. "Open." Ji Yufei struggled with all his might, wanting to break this divine chain. However, not only did the divine chain that coiled around his body not break, it tightened instead. Ji Yufei was shocked. The divine chain that coiled around his body was no ordinary divine weapon. "Ha ha! This is my Wang family's ultimate treasure, the heaven-sealing divine chain. It can even seal the heavenly laws. How could a little fellow like you possibly break it?" Heaven-sealing divine chain? Ji Yufei could not help but frown when he heard this. The Fatty was indescribably shocked when he heard Wang Zhaotian's words. The heaven-sealing divine chain was an incomparably powerful emperor divine weapon of the Wang family. "I didn't expect Brother Wang to bring the clan's ultimate treasure." The Southern Heaven God Emperor was also a little surprised to see Wang Zhaotian using the heaven-sealing divine chain. One should know that the heaven-sealing divine chain had always been enshrined in the Wang family's ancestral ground and was rarely used. Damn it! Although Ji Yufei was furious, he still remained calm. In the next moment, a ball of divine fire emerged from his right arm and instantly enveloped his entire body. It was the true fire of the sun, which was said to be able to incinerate everything in the world. However, when the true fire of the sun came into contact with the heaven-sealing divine chain on Jiu Fei's body, it couldn't do anything to it. The true fire of the sun that emerged from Jiu Fei's body burned the heaven-sealing divine chain until ancient divine runes appeared on it. Surrender obediently. After saying that, Wang Zhaotian kept attacking, sealing up Jiu Fei's cultivation base. Boss, I'll leave first. I'll come back to save you. After saying that, the fatty crushed the talismans in his hand. In the next moment, the fatty disappeared into the void. This guy, Jiu Fei, was speechless. It was impossible for him to save him. Haha, killing a divine king with a single punch. It's all a joke before me. Wang Zhaotian laughed and waved his right hand. Jiu Fei, who was tied up like a dumpling, flew over to him. Daoist Shen Kuan, I'll take my leave first. Wang Zhaotian couldn't wait to return to the Wang family's ancestral land to take care of Jiu Fei. The news of Jiu Fei being captured by the Wang family spread like wildfire. The entire southern divine region was in an uproar. That Jiu Fei actually went to provoke the God Emperor? His courting death. His definitely courting death. A true god challenging a God Emperor, that's too crazy. Everyone was discussing. Jiu Fei was only a mid-level true god, yet he dared to challenge Wang Zhaotian. In everyone's eyes, he was courting death. Wang family, Wang Zhaotian, just you wait. In a mountain range 3,000 miles away from Tiannan City, a figure directly fell out of the void and fell head first into a thicket. The person crawled out of the thicket in a miserable state. He was wearing a Daoist robe and had a fat body. His forehead was covered in sweat as he panted heavily. He was the fatty who had just escaped from South Heaven City. As long as I get that thing, I'll kill my way to the Wang family. The fatty cursed as he walked out of the thicket. After getting his bearings, he disappeared into the mountain range. The Wang family's ancestral land was a spectacular place. Dragon-shaped clouds could be seen in the sky from time to time, and the mountains on the ground looked like a coiled dragon. The heaven and earth spiritual energy here was so thick that it could not be dispersed. Waterfalls and springs could be seen between the mountains, and pavilions could be seen everywhere. It was like a peerless paradise. Cultivating in this kind of peerless divine land would definitely yield twice the result with half the effort. It was no wonder that the Wang family could survive for so many years, producing a peerless expert in every generation. This was the confidence of a super cultivation family. Ordinary cultivation forces simply couldn't compare to them. After Jiu Fei was captured by Wang Zhaotian and brought back to the Wang family's ancestral land, Wang Zhaotian threw him into the Wang family's black prison. At this time, the Wang family was in an uproar after receiving the news. The number of experts that died in Jiu Fei's hands was a little too many, and they were all the most outstanding existences in the Wang family. Especially Wang Yong, Wang Zhaotian's only son. Chapter 4108. Who is that? The Patriarch personally captured him and threw him into the 9th level of the purgatory of ice and fire. There's no need to ask. Someone who could make the Patriarch take action personally and take down the 9th level must be an earth-shattering figure. That person seems very young. Hihi, are there any lack of young and beautiful antiques and old monsters in the cultivation world? At the entrance to the Wang family's purgatory in the southern divine region, a few jailers wearing azure gold divine armor were chatting. They were very shocked because they hadn't seen the Patriarch personally come to the purgatory of ice and fire for many years. The last time was 300 years ago. At that time, Wang Zhaotian had captured a great devil of the devil realm and personally sent him down to the 9th level. In the eyes of these jailers, Jiu Fei was undoubtedly an important figure who could compare to the great devil of the devil realm 300 years ago. Otherwise, the Patriarch wouldn't have needed to personally take action. Shut up, all of you. How can we casually discuss the Patriarch's matters? At this time, an old jailer with white hair walked out. When the young jailers heard this, they immediately shrunk their necks and didn't dare to say anything else. At this time, Jiu Fei was imprisoned in the Wang family's 9th level of the purgatory of ice and fire. Right now, he was in the middle of 9 layers of ice and fire. The 9th level of the purgatory of ice and fire was where the Wang family imprisoned serious criminals. Ordinary devils and evil gods didn't have the qualifications to be imprisoned here. Only the great devils and evil gods would be imprisoned here. And any evil spirit that was imprisoned in the 9th level of the purgatory of ice and fire would only have one ending, death here. The Wang family's purgatory of ice and fire was very famous in the southern divine region. The power of ice and fire is vast, but unfortunately, the power of ice and fire contains a powerful poison. Ordinary people can't refine and absorb it for their own use. Ji Fei lay motionlessly on the icy ground. This place was sometimes unbearably hot, sometimes bone-chilling cold. Also, both the heat and cold contained a poison that could corrode the soul. Unfortunately, Wang Zhaotian miscalculated this time. Ji Fei sat up. To others, this was a land of death, a land of death. But to him, it was a land of treasures. Others might not be able to refine the power of ice and fire here, but he could. Others would have their bodies and souls corroded by the terrifying poison here, but he was completely fine. This was because he possessed the eternal true bone. The eternal real bone could refine everything in the world for its own use, so mere poisons were naturally nothing to it. The power of ice and fire in this place was so enormous that if he refined it, it would probably be comparable to half of the origin energy of the heavenly god realm. Yi, isn't this the Wang clan's heaven-locking divine chains? Just at that moment, a startled cry rang out. A white-haired, white-browed, emaciated old man was sitting in a corner like a statue. If he didn't speak, no one would notice him. There was almost no aura coming from this old man. There were even some icicles hanging from his messy hair. He wore very little. He was bare-chested and only had a pair of shorts on his lower body. He was barefoot. When Ji Fei saw this old man, he jumped in fright. "Little fellow, who are you? You actually need Wang Zhaotian to use the heaven-locking divine chains to suppress you?" The old man asked curiously. The heaven-locking divine chains were the Wang clan's ultimate treasure. They treasured it very much and wouldn't use it easily. "Me? I'm Ji Fei. I'm just a nobody." Ji Fei chuckled. "Hihi, a nobody? If you were a nobody, you would have died here long ago. I see that you don't fear the power of ice and fire here at all. Could you be a god emperor?" The old man chuckled softly. "I'm not a god emperor." Ji Fei shook his head. A god emperor was nothing in his eyes. Back then, he had even killed many extreme supremes of the primogenitor realm. But now, he had no choice but to temporarily swallow his anger. Even if you're not a god emperor, you're not far from it. The old man stared at Ji Fei as though he wanted to see through him. "Then who are you?" Ji Fei asked. "Me. I've been imprisoned here for so long that I've forgotten my name," the old man suddenly said. "What?" Ji Fei was stunned. He then asked, "Do you know where this place is?" "Here." This was originally a battlefield during the primordial era. The battle between the primordial frost dragon and the primordial fire dragon nearly destroyed the entire world. The old man said. The primordial frost dragon and the primordial fire dragon ultimately perished together. Later on, the Wang clan's ancestor moved the place where the primordial frost dragon and the primordial fire dragon died to the side of the Wang clan's ancestral ground and built a purgatory. "I see." Ji Fei came to a sudden realization. No wonder this was the 9 heavens of ice and fire. It was caused by the primordial frost dragon and the primordial fire dragon's origin power. Be it the primordial fire dragon or the primordial frost dragon, they were both poisonous dragons that could kill countless living beings with a single breath. They were extremely ferocious dragons among the dragon race. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to refine the origin dragon pearl of such a poisonous dragon. Thus, Ji Fei benefited from it. He sat cross-legged on the ground and began to circulate his mystic art to devour the surrounding ice and fire powers. "Little guy, are you crazy?" The old man sitting in the corner was shocked. This guy actually dared to devour the ice and fire powers here. This was no different from suicide. Ji Fei didn't say anything. Soon, a black hole formed in his chest. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth that gathered from all directions was devoured by this black hole and refined into his own power. The old man was shocked when he sensed the changes on Ji Fei's body. Even he didn't dare to refine the ice and fire powers here. Clang! The heaven-locking divine chains on Ji Yufei's body vibrated from time to time as they wrapped around Ji Yufei tightly. Ancient runes constantly appeared on the divine chains. As Ji Yufei's aura continued to rise, the heaven-locking divine chains on his body tightened. However, Ji Yufei didn't care about the chains at all. Soon, the ice and fire powers in the ice and fire purgatory were no longer as strong. This little guy, the eyes of the mysterious old man, who was sitting cross-legged in the corner, lit up when he saw Ji Yufei. He had never imagined that this little fellow named Ji Yufei could actually refine the power of ice and fire. While Ji Yufei was refining the ice and fire powers, a figure was searching for something in a valley 10,000 miles away from the Wang family's ancestral ground. Boom! In next to no time, a muffled sound resounded from within the valley. In the next moment, a beam of divine light shot into the sky from within the valley, and it vanished into the horizon in the blink of an eye. Ha ha! Wang family, aren't you all dead this time? A fat man walked out of the valley, holding a large halberd in his hand. It was a pitch-black halberd that exuded a chilling aura. This fat man was the Realm Lord. The fat man was known as the Realm Lord of the Heavenly Divine Realm. However, none of the big shots in the Heavenly Divine Realm acknowledged his position. Swoosh! Fatty stomped on the ground with both feet, causing the entire ground to explode. He leaped up and disappeared into the mountain ridge. At this moment, in the ancestral ground of the Wang family, the upper echelons of the Wang family had arrived at the ancestral hall on the highest mountain peak. Wang Zhaotian was sitting on the throne in the middle of the hall. Lord Family Head, what are we waiting for if we don't kill that guy? That's right. That Ji Yufei killed Wang Yang's nephew. He deserved to die 1,000 deaths. Why are you still talking so much nonsense? Just drag that guy out and chop him up. In the hall, everyone was in favor of immediately executing Ji Yufei and using Ji Yufei's blood as a blood sacrifice for the elites of the Wang family who had died in his hands. Family Head, since everyone is of the same opinion, let's do it this way. An old man with white hair and beard suddenly said. Since the great elder has said so, let's do it. Wang Zhaotian nodded and said. Then, Wang Zhaotian personally walked out. He took a step and instantly appeared in the sky above the ice and fire purgatory. Wang Zhaotian directly entered the 9th level of the purgatory. He was shocked to find that the power of ice and fire in the purgatory seemed to have weakened. When Wang Zhaotian saw Ji Yufei, he was shocked again. He saw Ji Yufei sitting cross-legged on the ground and actually absorbing the surrounding essence energy. How is this possible? Seeing Ji Yufei devouring the power of ice and fire, he was even more shocked. Lock. Wang Zhaotian didn't hesitate and directly triggered the heaven-locking divine chains. Only to see the heaven-locking divine chains coiling around Ji Yufei's body immediately constricted and tightened. An explosive sound came from Ji Yufei's body as if his bones were about to be broken. You only have this bit of ability. Ji Yufei looked at Wang Zhaotian, who was outside coldly, and said in disdain. Wang Zhaotian laughed coldly and directly opened the prison door. After that, he grabbed Ji Yufei out of the prison. He directly grabbed Ji Yufei's collar and soared into the sky. There was no obstruction along the way and he directly rushed out of the ice and fire purgatory. From start to end, that mysterious old man in the purgatory didn't make a sound. He didn't even open his eyes. Wang Zhaotian captured Ji Yufei and placed him on the god execution stage. A clan elder volunteered to personally kill Ji Yufei and his son. Ji Yufei stood on the god execution stage and looked at the surrounding Wang family disciples coldly. Kneel. That Wang family elder shouted and then swept his leg towards Ji Yufei's legs. However, Ji Yufei didn't move at all. You want me to kneel? Who do you think you are? Ji Yufei said in disdain. You, that clan elder was shocked and furious. He gripped the god-slaying blade tightly and then slashed towards Ji Yufei's neck with all his might. Everyone was anticipating the bloody scene of his head falling to the ground. Dang! Just at this moment, the god-slaying blade slashed onto Ji Yufei's neck and there was a metallic clang. Then, the entire god-slaying blade rebounded and flew out of the elder's hand. That clan elder lowered his head and saw that his hands were covered in blood. His palms were actually torn by the rebounding force. This